What is up, Earthnoids and Spacenoids? I am just a simple Newtype, and in this episode, we are finally diving into the novel that started it all, Mobile Suit Gundam Awakening, Escalation, Confrontation. These are the novels that were first introduced in the 90s, and technically the first officially translated Gundam property in the West. It's kind of crazy that they translated the books before the anime. People don't read over here. When the super robot genre was at its peak, Tomino said, let's do something more grounded and focus on the human problems that come with the robot fighting. This is going to drastically divert from the Universal Century canon that we are used to. So get ready for a completely different take on Mobile Suit Gundam. Let's not waste any time and let's get into this. Lieutenant Junior Grade Ralph begins yelling at 5 young cadets in front of him. The Pegasus has taken flight and the cadets must watch pilots practice landing procedures with core fighters. The cadets must yell out the landing procedures that each pilot are doing. One thing to note here, unlike the anime where we follow the Pegasus class ship called the White Base, in the novel, it is a White Base class ship called the Pegasus. If you ever seen people refer to White Base as a White Base class ship, it is because of the novel. They are on their way to Side 7, and this is the ship's first real mission. Many of the core fighters have already experienced real combat when they were on the Trafalgar. The Trafalgar class ship is an EFF space carrier specific to the Gundam novels and later adapted in the video game Giren's Greed. It was developed from the Magellan class ship and can be seen more as a Magellan variant, as any Magellan can be modified into a Trafalgar. There is no data on how big the carrying capacity of these ships are, but it does have the ability to carry at least 12 public class ships. Because this is essentially a Magellan with a deck attached to it, many of the mega particle cannons have been removed. This greatly reduces the ship's firepower. Because of this, this ship has very weak defenses and requires an escort ship, and it makes it a giant undefensible target. 8 of these ships were built before EFF created the White Base class ship. It does retain one twin megaparticle cannon, and twin machine guns have been added near the deck. Other weapons include 2 6-tube missile launchers and various missile launch tubes. Lieutenant Ralph leads the cadets to the hangar, where they will get to pilot the core fighter for the first time. Lieutenant Ralph takes off first, followed by 5 cadets: Ryu Jose, Kai Shiden, Amado Ray, Sean Crane, and Hayato Kobayashi. That is right, our heroes begin their journey as cadets. None of this civilians gaining access to EFF secrets nonsense that no one seems to care about anyways. Our heroes are already a part of EFF. Amado's helmets filled the comms of White Base and his comrades, along with a huge amount of white noise created from Minovsky particle disruption. Ralph tells Amado that anyone could be a pilot, but what makes a great pilot is one who can filter out the Minovsky disruption and distill what is important on the radio. As someone who has logged flight hours in the real world, the hard part is learning to communicate on the radio. This seems to be even more true in an age of Minovsky particle disruption. The 6 core fighters hook back around and head back to Pegasus to proceed with landing procedures. One thing the novel delves into more so than the anime is its understanding of the vastness of space. In the anime, it does play out sometimes as though everyone has a visual on everything in space, but that isn't the case. Space is so vast that you have to rely on subtle movements of light from great distances. Amado uses the landing cables as an example. They are bright red with lights guiding pilots to the landing area. But in space, even Pegasus looks merely like a dot of light. It is kind of a mindfuck to think about. We rely on our vision so heavily, but in space, there is more of nothing than there is of something. As Amado lands, there is a giant articulating arm in the hangar that instantly takes the core fighter, picks it up, and transforms it into a core block ready for its next use. You kind of see something like that in the anime from time to time, but it's cool to see it play out. As Amado gets out, a voice on the PA tells the chief petty officer to prepare for another launch. We learn that everything on the Pegasus is hardwired. This allows everyone on board the ship to communicate with everyone without worrying about Minovsky particle disruption. Their mission is to pick up the new Gundam and gun cannon from Side 7. EFF is late to the game as they only began mobile suit development 6 months ago, where Zeon had operating mobile suits for over a year now. Back at the ship later, Lieutenant Ralph tells the crew about the Gundam and gun cannon. He says you have to treat the mobile suit like a woman. I remember the first time I had sex. The first thing I did was rip off her dangly bits. Always rip off a woman's dangly bits. I don't think this guy has had sex before. Amado mentions that his artificial arm makes it hard for him to stand at attention. He thinks about Frau Bo back at Side 7. He grew up on Side 7 and he and Frau sent video messages for a while, but slowly they lost contact. He is now heading home. Mid-speech, Raul uses his robotic arm to hit Amuro. He thought he wasn't paying attention, but Amuro ducked and dodged his attack. Not only are we getting glimpses of a world where you're lucky to keep your limbs, we are also seeing a no-nonsense approach to command. Ralph says nice dodge, but he gets Ryu and Kai to hold him down so he could get a good slap in. Remember, Tomino is greatly influenced by Starship Troopers, and these influences show more in the book. The desire to earn citizenship usually came with the price of missing a body part. Also, the extreme punitive measure that Command takes to get their point is very much a Hindland move. At least it was just a slap and not a knife through the hand like Gary Busey's son got in the movie. They are dismissed to get some food. Everyone laughs and tells Amuro to stay out of trouble next time. Char Aznable comes to the bridge of the Musai-class ship. One thing we learn here is that Musais are so quiet you could hear a pin drop. Drin tells him that they are 15 minutes away from Side 7. He looks out to Luna 2 and Earth. Luna 2 has a reddish, rusty color compared to the generic gray granite color you get in the anime. Char uses the laser scope to detect the Pegasus beyond the shoal zone. He mentions that it looks like a Trojan horse. Everyone on the bridge is wearing a mask, including Char, but Char wears another mask under that. This is to hide a horrible scar. They left it vague in the anime, and in the original, he used the excuse of an eye sensitivity thing. That always bugged me about Origin. Pilots typically have 20/20 vision or better, so writing it as an eye problem is weird. But I guess people with glasses pilot mobile suits in this world, so what do I know? Stupid Keith and his glasses running my argument. Of course, this is all for him to hide from the Zabi family. Side 7 has been in development for 2.5 years now and is slowly developing more colonies. Only a third was built before the war broke out. This new ship heading to Side 7 makes Char believe it is Operation V, and the Federation now has mobile suits. Drin is a little hesitant. According to their intel from 2 months ago, the 3rd Sector Patrol Force are the only troops stationed on the colony. However, Char says that intel is ancient. According to their intel 7 months ago, there are 13,800 civilians. But that number must be vastly greater by now, right? The Musai was coming back from an assault on EFF, and they need resupplies. Only 2 megaparticle cannons work, and they only have 3 Zakus. Char says, screw it, let's roll the dice on this one, and pursues the Trojan horse. The next chapter goes over the history of Universal Century, which is more or less the same. But let's discuss some details that the novel brings to light. Universal Century began at the end of the 20th century, which shows how hopeful culture was at the time. That time is past, maybe in another century. The first colonies were 3 kilometers in diameter and 38 kilometers long, but they soon doubled in size in no time. Side 1 was the first to go up at L5, and soon all the L points started development of sides, including L2, known as the dark side of the moon. The book says the backside of the moon, but no Westerner says that. Dark side of the moon, rock and roll bitches. In UC 0045, Luna 2 was brought to the moon's orbit, and Side 1 and 2 were complete with those hipsters over at Side 3 swiftly beginning immigration. On Earth, many citizens began protesting immigration to the colonies. This is when the terms Spacenoids and Earthnoids started being used to create a divide. In UC 0054, Zeonsun Daikum declared independence on Side 3. He soon died and was succeeded by Dagonzabi, who became a sovereign leader. The novel refers to his leadership to that of an archduke. The Federation found it hard to control the colonies from Earth, especially as the colonies scaled out. Because of Minovsky particles and the Zaku, Zeon gained an advantage as they went to war with Earth. Char earned the name the Red Comet by taking down 3 Magellans and 7 Salamis-class ships. Salami? Is that the plural to Salamis? He ordered Denim and Jean to launch towards the colony core. The 2 Zakus entered the under-construction colony through the hatch. One thing to note here is that the colonies function on UMT, or Universal Mean Time. This helps the colonies get natural sunlight. Jean and Denim make it into the colony and communicate using skin talk, which utilizes voice vibrations through the Zaku's armor. Jean is stunned in amazement when he sees a spider. At Side 3, animals are hyper-regulated, unlike Side 7, which integrates them into the ecosystem. Their Minovsky particles diffuse throughout the colony. Char was right. Something is going on here. It helps the 2 hide in the colony, at least. It is currently 4:30 a.m. UMT, so no one should be up. The 2 notice something that resembles a military base and check it out. They scout it out to find humanoid parts being rolled out. They are certain it is mobile suits. There is even a white one. Jean and Denim should probably give this intel to Char. But this is Gundam, and Gundam happens because Jean's got a gene. The Pegasus docks with Side 7. 3 gun cannons and 3 Gundams are ready to be loaded onto the ship. Amuro and the cadets stand at attention while the veteran pilots get to be the first to check out the new units. On the bridge is Paulo Cassius. He spotted the Musai class before docking, and they need to hurry. Suddenly, an alarm goes off and the captain is informed that there is an attack inside the colony. Jean goes into action. Tomino mentions that the Zaku's verniers allows the mobile suit to jump 800 meters. He hits and destroys one of the mobile suits. Also, their names are Denim and Jean. Tomino started doing the weird Toriyama naming convention before Toriyama. EFF quickly responds to their attack, but they respond with Elikars with missile launchers mounted on them. Oh, bless their hearts. Jean and Denim swiftly take them out. 2 core fighters launch inside the colony. Amuro notes that piloting a core fighter in the colony is madness, as the fighters are too fast and the colonies are too small. They go in to attack Denim, but the Zaku is simply too powerful and takes them out. Amuro and the cadets get into their normal suits and grab some rifles. They take a lift to find a gun cannon with no legs. They find an Elikar and head towards the EFF base being attacked. The elevator they just came from explodes. Another explosion goes off above them, flinging the cadets out of the car. Amuro gets up to find that Sean was hit by a piece of the core fighter debris, turning Sean into a meat crown. No, not Sean! No, Sean, not LaShawn. Also, you're on the wrong side. Sean's blood covers Amuro's normal suit. He removes a piece of Sean's intestines from the suit and they continue running. He wonders if Frau is alright. He thinks about how Frau was a surrogate mother for him and wonders, was she into me? Oh man, I probably could have asked her out. Why am I realizing this while Sean's intestine juices are on me? They head to C Block, which was his old neighborhood. EFF turned the area into a weapons testing facility. That is when a Zaku approaches the cadets. The cadets and Pegasus crew fire on the Zaku, but Amuro runs through the mobile suit. He had sensed that it wouldn't move and he could rush by. The cadets regroup on the slope as citizens flee in evacuation pods. They realize they are useless and have to find heavier firepower. They head into the building where Amuro wonders where the other mobile suit is located. They leave just in time as a boulder crushes the building. EFF fires on the Zaku and ricochet bullets come close to hitting the cadets. They try to get into an Elikar, but one of the Zaku's giant shells drop down and crushes the car. Another explosion goes off, decimating the soil and exposing the colony. A few more hits like that and the colony is goners. During the explosion, Amuro sees the limb of a child pass by. This triggers something in Amuro. He knew there is one untouched mobile suit and is going to look for it. He ignores the massacre around him as much as possible. Once he reaches the weapon site, sure enough there was one untouched mobile suit already equipped with a core fighter. He gets into the cockpit. Amuro spent months training in the Gundam on the simulator. There are recent sticky notes all over the instruments from a recent field test, ironing out the little quirks. The monitor has augmented reality to show the targets in sight. He also has 8 monitors to give him a 360-degree view. He doesn't have a panoramic display, but there are cameras which allow him to see all angles. He can't find the beam rifle. One of the Zakus spot him, so he fires his Vulcans, but they are useless at that range. The other Zaku notices and swarms on his location. Amuro dodges a beam blast. He notes the Gundam is slower than in the simulator. He is fighting against the controls. He goes in and unleashes his beam saber. Amuro slices through the shoulder of Jean Zaku, but cuts into the chest. He realizes that he might have hit the core and retreats. Amuro says that nuclear cores don't go off like nuclear bombs, but they are still big and they cause contamination. So they are kind of like how we explained it in Hathaway. Jean Zaku explodes, blowing a hole in the outer wall of the colony. Denim remembers Char, stating that this is just a scouting mission, and he makes his leave. Char is on thin ice with the Zabi family and doesn't want this operation to turn sour. He is the son of Zeon Daikum. He was too young to understand when he was a kid, but his surrogate father, Jimba Rao, told him that his father didn't die of natural causes and lays blame on the Zabis. Besides learning Char's backstory up front, we also learned that he wasn't plotting as a child like an origin. Most of his hate towards the Zabis was taught to him by Jimba Rao. He retained a new identity as Char Aznable and joined the academy where he met Garma Zabi. Soon the war broke out. Char is trying to lay low and gather as many Daikum loyalists in the process. He hates both the totalitarianism of the Zabis and the absolute democracy of the Federation, so he's going to let them fight each other. They pick up Denim and swing around the other side of Side 7 against Captain Haman Tram's wishes. Even if they disobeyed orders, Denim was able to create a diversion for the Musai. Denim tells Char intel on the Gundam and damage on the colony. They will be too busy to deal with the Musai at the moment. This is the perfect time to go in for a second infiltration. They will use normal suits instead of Zaku's this time. Char and Denim head back to the colony with a small team. Amuro wanted to help out with the destruction, but on the comms come Ensign Bright Noah, Warrant Officer Midai Yashima, and CPO Marker Clan. They tell Amuro that there seems to be no senior officers left alive, with the exception of a wounded Cassius. The Pegasus received a direct hit. All the ground units that went out haven't come back. Bright has assumed command for now. Midai tells Amuro that their mission is to find 3 Gundams and 3 gun cannons. They have to retrieve what they still can. Kai retrieved a gun cannon that seems to be the only functioning unit. Amuro must gather debris for potential parts to the mobile suits, while getting a gun cannon torso onto the Pegasus. Some civilians come asking for help. Amongst them happen to be Frau Bo. She tells Amuro that her mother and grandfather died. He tells her to take refuge on Pegasus. Amuro heads into the hangar, where Ryu and some men are hard at work fixing the gun cannons. Bright tells Amuro he has to find the magnetic control coils for the beam rifle and destroy any remaining Gundam and gun cannon parts to get rid of any evidence. He sends Ryu out with him. Also on Side 7 is Sayla Mass. She is Char's sibling who lived out life on Earth in Europe, masquerading as an elite. Unlike Char, who fostered anger, she took a different path. Against Jimbaral's wishes, she immigrated to Side 7. She wanted to be a doctor, but helps as a communications technician on the colony. Soon the Federation took control and trained her as a communications expert. They then insisted that she enlist. She had no interest until this attack. Once the attack broke out, Sayla and the other civilian comm technicians were tasked with burning any documents regarding the Gundam. While this is going down, she spots a man in a red normal suit. She felt compelled to capture this man. She holds him up at gunpoint. The man takes off his helmet, revealing to Sayla that he is Char. He kicks the gun out of her hand and he realizes that it is Artesia. But he retreats during the chaos of it all, having little time to process finding his sister. The Gundam finds Sayla and picks her up. By this time, Amuro has already found the beam rifle. He tests it out by destroying the base and all evidence. As they retreat back to Pegasus, they see Char. Amuro points his gun and thinks, yeah, that's overkill. Bro was about to vaporize Char at the expense of the colony. Char begins infiltrating the core and the Pegasus. Amuro places Sayla on the ground and she helps Frau with some wounded citizens. On board the bridge with Bright is Oscar Dublin and Marker Clan. These two will be the unspoken heroes of Pegasus. Everyone on the bridge is inexperienced. They're using the sub-bridge because the bridge was destroyed, killing everyone but Cassius. All pilots with the exception of Amuro and the cadets have been killed in action. The Pegasus launches from Side 7. The medic Sunmallow, Wheels, and Cassius. He tells Bright not to worry about the Gundam and focus on getting the Musai off their tail. Char flees on jetpack and tells the Musai to get his Zaku ready. Cassius tells Bright that if this is the Red Comet, they have to get out of here. Amuro faces off with Char. He is able to dodge one of his attacks. He remembers the advice given by Lieutenant Ralph. He realizes that shell weapons won't penetrate the armor, and he has to use beam weapons. Char's Zaku flies off for a second, disappearing in the blackness of space before rushing at the Gundam. He fires tracer rounds at Amuro, but he is able to dodge another attack. Amuro is amazed at how well the Gundam is responding to his reflexes. As Char fights the Gundam, he notes that it isn't anything special, but he could sense that the beam rifle is packed with a powerful punch. He tries to overwhelm Amuro's attacks, but he is able to dodge them all. He wonders if the pilot is a new type. Char recently learned of new types a few months ago from the Flanagan Institute. He wonders if the Federation could have them as well. Char tries to tell Denim to watch out, but the Gundam fires its beam rifle, taking out Denim in one shot. Char realizes the beam rifle is as strong as a megaparticle cannon on a battleship. Amuro is so hyped up from all the adrenaline surging through his body, he eventually returns to the Pegasus. When he lands, Bright tells him to prep the Gundam and gun cannon for future attacks. There are some mechanics on board that were on Side 7 that can help him out. Char thinks that there was nothing wrong with his strategy. It was Zeon's intel gathering that made him fail this mission. Okay, buddy. On top of that, he never thought he would have stumbled onto his sister Artesia during all of this. He writes it off as youthful inexperience. The Pegasus heads to Luna 2. This was the former asteroid Juno. The Federation announced plans to move the asteroid from the moon orbit to Earth's orbit in UC 0035. It wasn't complete until 10 years later in UC 0045. after becoming a husk of a shell, devoid of any more resources to mine. EFF began fortification around UC 0067. Once the 1-week war broke out, Luna 2 was attacked along with the sides. After the 1-week war, it was rebuilt and used as a base of operations. There is a recon satellite occupied by Zeon called the California that rotates at a 30-degree elliptical around the Earth, constantly dispersing Minovsky particles to keep itself hidden. Captain Garma receives a message from Char informing him that he is driving the Trojan horse towards his location. Remember, we aren't going to Earth on this journey, but we still hit the same beats where Char and Garma meet up. Also, Garma is a captain in the novel, unlike the anime where he is a colonel. As Garma receives a message from Char, he makes an offhanded comment saying, "Not bad for the valedictorian," which is interesting because in Gundam Origin, Char allowed Garma to become valedictorian by causing commotion with the EFF occupiers of Side 3. Garma is a very tolerant leader, but in the eyes of Char, that also makes him an ineffectual leader. The young leader preps the Gaus to intercept the Pegasus. It will take the ship about 10 hours to reach Luna 2 on the current route. Char, being more experienced than Bright, fires his cannons around him. This causes Bright to zigzag, slowing them down. They're going to try to capture Pegasus with the help of Garma. He believes that they may lose one Musai in the process. Frau Bo is helping out Sun Malo in the rotating artificial gravity section of the ship. She has become used to seeing exposed organs at this point. 2 little boys are confronting a young girl who is looking for her mother. Sayla takes the position of communications officer since Pegasus is so understaffed. She looks over at a guy before realizing he isn't alive. It's just a dead body. Ryu comes on the comms and tells Sayla that they have readied the gun cannon and are awaiting orders. Ryu also asks Sayla out if they live through this. Sayla doesn't say no, but she thinks in her head, "Is this guy black?" No joke. There is some friction between Bright, Oscar, and Marker. Sayla can sense that everyone is kind of panicking on the inside. Marker yells out that a Musai is approaching them. One thing that Oscar points out is that there is AI on board that tries to fill in the blind spots of Minovsky particle dispersion. It also AI generates 3D models to show their environment. Bright says he would be lost without these. He tells the mobile suits to launch. Amuro, Ryu, and Kai take flight. The Gundam and 2 gun cannons take formation. Bright wonders if they could use Model 2s. These are a codename for small mines 10 centimeters in diameter, but Oscar says it wouldn't put a dent into a Musai. The Musai launches missiles towards the Pegasus. Mirai takes evasive maneuvers. The ship takes a hit, but what Bright is trying to do is use the force of the blast to help accelerate the Pegasus. The crew goes to patch the ship with wall film. We've seen this a couple times in the anime, but definitely not enough. This is the liquid goop that seals up holes in a spaceship. Char goes in and out, hitting the Gundam with the 120mm machine gun. It isn't going to be able to take another hit. Amuro gets a kick on Char. He wasn't expecting the Gundam to get a hit off. Also, this seems to mimic Char's famous kick in the anime. The Musai fires another missile. Bright responds with anti-air missiles. As the action happens, Frau tends to the 3 kids and ensures they are tied down. She learns that this is Kika, Katz, and Let's, and says that when the action calms down, they will look for their parents once again. But Frau recognizes that no one is looking for these kids and expects the worst. Dren is not the captain of the Musai in this version. He seems to be the second XO of the sorts. The captain is someone named Haman Tram. Char wants to push the Trojan horse towards Garma, giving him all the glory. But Garma is a part of Casilia's space attack force, but they are under Dozel's command and the command of the Mobile Assault Force. Captain Tram wants all the glory to go to Dozel. Dren also seems to hate Char, but not as much as the captain. Even Dren sees Char giving Garma the win somewhat traitorous towards the Mobile Assault Force. He says that Char's luck will one day run out. Kai is lost wandering around the blackness of space. Ryu moves in towards the red comet. He shoots at the Zaku. One minor difference in this version's gun cannon is that the shoulder cannons have a 280mm caliber instead of the typical 240mm. The Zaku disappears. Amada shows Ryu his shield that has been blasted apart. Even though they have state-of-the-art mobile suits, Char shows that he is an ace pilot by not missing a single shot. Amada wonders if Char is a Newtype. Mirai tells Bright that Char retreated because he ran out of ammo. She thinks that he may be a smart tactician. Bright notices how perceptive Mirai is. This is potentially Bright's first Mirai boner. However, in a few pages, Bright will think about how pretty Sayla is. So who knows where his heart, and more importantly, his boner belongs. belongs to. They won't be able to make it to Luna 2 as the Musai is preventing them. They will have to take Zeon head on. Sayla can't get in contact with Luna 2. Bright is starting to believe that Char is leading them into a trap. In the anime, like most heroes, they tend to fail upward. It's a kid's show designed to sell toys, so I get it. But here, we get to see Bright's struggle. He is not doing well as a commander. They have been at this cat and mouse game for 3 hours. Bright was planning on looping around Luna 2, but forgot that California is nearby. Like in episode 3 of Gundam, Vote to Attack. Bright leaves it to a vote with the crew. Should they push forward towards the California or turn back and face off with Char's Musai? Mirai thinks that they should head back as she believes the Musai is low on ammo. Ryu Jose agrees with her. They also don't know how many Gaos the Zeon satellite will have either. Bright opens a communication line to the entire ship, asking if anyone is willing to help defend it, while children and others head towards Ward E. They will engage with the Musai in 15 minutes. Alright, good talk. Time for a coffee break. 2 paragraphs are spent on coffee talk. You know, I get it, actually. Everyone begins overwhelming Sayla with questions, but Bright tells her to relay all of those questions to the commanding officer of each deck and not bother them. All she could really do is monitor injured people on the cams and relay info to Sunmallow. That is when Frau gets on the line and asks her, "Hey man, I got 3 screaming kids with me. How do I get to Ward E?" An old man named Jarma Amoff comes to the deck and tells Bright that he used to be the commander of the ship Buchanan. He wants to help. He tells him to take over for Oscar, who is currently running command at the missile launchers. The old man constantly calls him Skipper during this conversation, which greatly annoys Bright. Bright gets Oscar on the phone and tells him to let the old man pretend to take command and watch over him. He is from the radar days, which aren't as useful in an age of Minovsky particles. Marker got someone on the stern missiles. Bright notes that Marker has a photogenic memory when it comes to faces. Bright seems to not remember anyone. Meanwhile, Bright wonders, where the hell is the coffee? Someone get this man a coffee. Garma and 3 Gaos will be in firing range in 10 minutes. 3 Gaos means 18 DOPS. Interesting to see that the DOPS and Gaos were used in space before being turned into atmospheric fighters, like in the anime and manga. I suppose there's nothing stopping them from being space fighters. They don't use aerodynamics and use a lot of thrust to fight against gravity. A Gauss seems overkill for space, though. What am I talking about? It's overkill in general. Giant ace combat boss looking ass plane. Char says that Garma is very young and inexperienced. Dren looks at him and says, "Bitch, you are young and inexperienced." Dren and Char's relationship is more contentious in the novel. Char launches an Izaku to help Garma. Dren equipped his unit with a hyper bazooka, but only has 3 refurbished rounds. The DOP space fighter was one of the first fighters developed by Zeon during a time when people barely knew of Minovsky particles. The cockpit extends out unlike typical fighters, which gives it an edge in battle and outclass the Federation's flying mantas, although it can win in a dogfight. Its weapon set is greatly underpowered with just Vulcans and small missiles. Char realizes the Pegasus is turning around. He calls Bright foolish, as if he did this an hour earlier, he might have gotten the upper hand. But now he will have to face off against 2 forces. The Gauss fire its twin megaparticle cannons, but Mirai is able to dodge the beam blasts. She didn't get a command from Bright or any intel from Oscar. She just felt the need to evade in the moment. The Gundam and gun cannons launch and instantly square up with a squad of DOPS. Hayato went out in the gun cannon in Kai's place. They began fighting with Garma's fleet. Paolo Cassius has fallen into a coma and Bright still hasn't got that cup of coffee. Meanwhile, the cadets engage with the DOPS. Ryu gets his first kill using the shoulder cannons on the gun cannon. The Gundam takes down another 2. Char does an S-shaped maneuver and lands on the underbelly of the ship. He has the perfect opportunity to shoot the bridge. He goes in quickly, but the Gundam comes rushing in to protect the ship. He didn't expect anyone to keep up with his speed. Char really sniffs his own farts more so in the novel. How could anyone match my skills? Me, of all people. Char only has 2 shells. He fires 1. Amuro responds with his beam rifle, which vaporizes his bazooka round. The beam blast emits millions of microparticles, which hit Char's shoulder shield. It looks fine to the naked eye, but the tiny holes break down the integrity of the metal. Char feels fear in battle for the first time since his first battle, which he mentions involved a flying manta. Amuro pulls out his beam saber and tries to stab Char right in the mono eye. The Gundam's eyes glare back at Char. He is stunned by the engineering behind the Gundam's beam saber. Garma tells everyone to pull back back as the Gals are prepping to fire the megaparticle cannons. Before Char could even react, 2 Gals go up in flames. The Pegasus gets 2 direct hits. Out of the flames comes Garma's Gal, heavily damaged. Char realizes that he is going to try to ram the ship. He yells out to Garma to stop. Char's genuinely concerned for his friend, but then he thinks to himself, hold on now, he's a zombie. This is a good thing. Zeon didn't get 1 hit on the Trojan horse and wonders if it is a demon. He then thinks that perhaps it is a special Newtype squad, but it can't be as Newtypes are barely in the zeitgeist at this moment. During all this, Char is still caught up with the Gundam, not able to shake him. Minovsky particle density is high, but on the radio comes Garma's muddled voice yelling, glory to Zeon. In the distance, the Pegasus-class ship fired 3 megaparticle blasts into the Gal, and Garma's ship goes up in flames. The remaining Dops fall in formation with Char as they retreat. He thinks Dozel isn't going to be happy about this one. Amuro meets up with Lieutenant Junior Grade Matilda Ajan once they make it to Luna 2. They are a part of the 28th Division, a Luna 2-based transport. They are key to resupplying the front lines and currently ordered to resupply the Pegasus. Amuro instantly falls in love with her. Tomino focuses on Matilda's lips a lot. He's a lip guy. Who would have thought? Ever since the Battle of Loom, there have been a shortage in manpower in both the civilian and military sectors. While on Luna 2, they have to work a double shift doing various tasks. Lieutenant Matilda works on resupplies, while Lieutenant Woody's engineering corps handles repairs. Everyone on Lieutenant Woody's team is green. Never forget that the mentality in this book is grim. Everyone is rushing to teach everyone as much as possible, knowing that they too will most likely be dead soon. When working on the deck, it is important to isolate the frequency you are communicating on, so you could cut out the chatter from other teams also doing work. Working on the deck in a normal suit is very similar to a plane navigating the radio to taxi on the runway. Others find it easier to just use skin talk. Amuro notes that Hayato does a better post-flight check than him, and he seems to know his way around a mobile suit hangar. He could tell by the gunshots that Amuro is relying on defense too much and using the Gundam like a tank. He reminds him that the Gundam is designed to constantly be in movement, so this is where that Hayato thick boy energy comes from. He also reminds Amuro that they are a skeleton crew of cadets, and that they will most likely all be reassigned somewhere else. Amuro contacts the ship and is met with Sayla. She wants her to patch them to E-Block, where the civilians currently are located. Son Mallow answers in a hostile manner. He wants to talk to Frau. She begins crying and tells Amuro that her mother and grandfather were killed back on Side 7. Frau's mother, Pham, acted like a surrogate mother to him. His mother stayed on Earth, and Tim Ray used this as an opportunity to separate from his wife. Since his mother wasn't around, Pham filled this role for him. He is filled with sadness for his lost surrogate mom. She wants to see him, but he is ordered to head to his mobile suit. He tells her that she is strong and goes to meet with the higher-ups. Missed opportunity for sexy time. The team meets with Joaquin and General Revel. They all notice him from the speech he made, pleading the Federation to not concede. The attack on the colonies when war broke out was referred to as the 3-second warning. After declaring war on the Federation, Zeon waited all but 3 seconds before attacking the colonies. They used GG gas, which can effectively kill 25 million people in 5 hours. Gassing all of the colonies took 20 hours and would have been successful if it wasn't for General Revel's holdout in Side 5, which became the Battle of Loom. The Federation started to put up a fight as they were upset with the loss of Federation soldiers. 4 billion people died in space, and they really didn't care until they learned that a few million of their men died as well. They implemented their colony crash strategy, which took one of the dead colonies and plunged it into Earth. In the light novel, the colony strikes New York. If you watch the original Gundam series, the city the colony hits looks pretty much like New York. It wasn't established that the colony hit Australia until later, and was kind of a retcon. They initially were going to drop a colony on Earth until the Federation surrendered, but that was thwarted when General Revel stepped in. This plays out similarly to how we've seen it in Gundam Origin. Zeon then issued an ultimatum threatening to drop Luna 2 on Jaburo if they did not concede. Unlike Gundam Origin, in this version, Casilia and Giren personally went to represent Zeon in the negotiations in Antarctica. General Revel escaped his imprisonment and gave a rousing speech to the people of Earth begging them not to surrender. This shifted the opinion throughout the Earth sphere. Rather than negotiate a surrender, the Antarctic Treaty was signed, preventing the use of nuclear armaments, along with preventing anyone from attacking Jupiter's-class ships carrying helium-3. This eventually led to the stalemate that the crew now finds themselves in. The Federation wanted to demote Revel after the speech he gave, but he became kind of a celebrity amongst the people. Meanwhile, Degwin tries to tell his son, Giren, of the era of the next step in human evolution, the Newtype. Giren believes that Daikun was talking about him, of course. This is where we get the infamous "Have you ever heard of Adolf Hitler's speech?" Unlike the anime, where he relates to Hitler, he is actually offended by Daegwon's words in the novel. Daegwon says that he is not what Daikun meant by Newtype. From that moment on, Giren constantly thought about killing his father. Back on Luna 2, General Revel meets with the Pegasus crew. Mirai instantly could tell that the general had a heart of gold and had no issue following his command. He thanks the Pegasus crew for being able to recover the 3 mobile suits from Side 7. They currently only have 30 gems mass-produced and can take everything they have for the Mobile Suit Corps. General Revel learned about Newtypes when he was taken prisoner by the Black Tri-Stars during the Battle of Loon. Newtype theory seems to be flourishing in academia, but even Zeon has officially denounced the concept of Newtypes. General Revel stares at Amuro. He says that after looking over Amuro's battle data from the past 2 fights with Char, he now believes and is certain Amuro is a Newtype. He believes that Zeon's stance is a ruse and that they are creating some sort of Newtype Corps. If they are going to have one, then the Federation should also have their own Newtype Corps. He promotes Bright to Lieutenant Junior grade and forms the Pegasus into the 13th Autonomous Fleet. They will be participating in Operation Star 1. General Revel takes his leave. Joaquin promotes Amuro to ensign. He doesn't think that he is ready for this responsibility. Joaquin tells him that his beam rifle is as strong as a battleship beam cannon. He wields a lot of responsibility and should probably be a lieutenant commander. Even though the crew has only been in 2 battles, with the lack of humans, they are already considered combat veterans. Now hurry up and teach someone how to use a gun before you die. There are 4 pilots and only 3 mobile suits, so they will have to work out a rotation. Amuro wasn't concerned about new types. He just has Frau Bell on his mind. Sayla, given her communications and medical background, was promoted to Petty Officer 2nd Class. Although remember, this Sayla hates all things regarding the military. In Origin, we saw Jimbo Rao constantly ramble on about the Zabis killing Daikun, particularly Giren in this version. She grew tired of the stories and emigrated to Side 7. Casaval, however, embraced the stories and let the hate for the Zabis grow. The thought of potentially running into her brother again is what allows her to wear an EFF uniform. She really hates it here. Amuro talks to Frau. She is going to stay on Luna 2 as her family on Side 7 were all killed. She knows she will be put to work as a grease monkey. Her real goals in life are to become a fashion designer, but those dreams seem to be dying as the war continues on. She reaches out to Amuro's hand and asks if she could depend on him. Amuro has an autistic moment and goes, "Yeah, I'm here. It's so obvious." Frau tells Amuro that she loves him and realizes that they are more than just friends. The burdens of leadership show on Daegwon Zabi's face as he appears older than he actually is. But over the past 10 years, his son Giren has assumed power. He resigned to appease the Daikun faction, but in doing so made his own faction appear weak. Because of this, the Zeon Assembly was formed. This new organization ran by Giren drastically reduced Daegwon's power and turned him into merely a puppet of his former self. He listens to a message that Garma sent him a few days before he was killed in action. He had hopes that Garma would be the leader that Giren could never be. Casilia comes to bring him to speak to the people. She's merely herding him around to keep their subjects happy. He heads out to make his eulogy to thousands of young Zeon soldiers ready to die for their country, all while sitting behind a giant gaudy portrait of Garma. This level of political worship isn't the Zeon that he wanted to build. He sees this as a regression of new types and uses Prime Minister Jarchia Bakarov as an example. He is a natural-born leader. He is empathetic and is loved by the people. But even now, he toes the line for Zeon, and he thinks that his new type abilities are stunted. I like that the novel shows that there are more to new types than just being a super soldier. As Daegwon gives his eulogy, Casilia and Dozel bicker about Char. Casilia is now using Char for her needs after Dozel dropped him for failing to protect Garma. It is Giren's turn to make his speech. He starts his speech praising Daikun. We, the people of Zeon, are the chosen people, and we must never consider giving into Federation corruption. Never forget Zeonzun Daikun, the hero and founder of our nation. Giren hates that he has to use Daikun's name to rile up the people. Even though the Zabis lead, they are still living in the shadows of Daikun. Sometime after Garma's death, Dozel kicked Char from the Mobile Assault Force. Shortly after, he was visited by Casilia and offered him the rank of commander. She is aware that he is close to the Flanagan Institute and wants to send him to the colony Balda on Side 6 to negotiate with Flanagan about using her. She gives him the newly made Zanzibar-class ship that is superior to the Musai in speed and strength. For the last 6 months, Casilia has been working with Dr. Flanagan to create the Saikomu. Of course, he already knew this. She also wants him to deliver a mobile armor to the Institute. At this point, Char has never heard of a mobile armor. This unit happens to be the Elmith. Char has no problem with this mission because it gives him the opportunity to see Lalah once again. He hates the obsession with protocol, so much so that he wished that they would have promoted him to captain. He likes that Casilia is thinking ahead and considering new type units. Char takes off for Side 6. He meets with Chief Engineer Lieutenant Muramasa, who shows him the Elmith. It has no arms and legs and resembles an old-school aircraft. Side 6 is a neutral colony, but behind the scenes, they are a Zeon puppet. Once Zeon wins the war, Side 6 will be used as a sort of transitional colony, or more specifically, it will be the Ellis Island colonies as they force humanity into space. During the 1-week war, Zeon spared Side 6 from destruction, unlike Loom, which is why they are under Zeon's heel. He meets with Dr. Flanagan and asks how Lalah is doing. He had always sensed that she has the potential to do great things. He pats himself on the back for his hunch being correct. Flanagan mentions that he too may be a new type. He tells the doctor that he doesn't believe in new types and that he is just trying to do his mission. Flanagan consents that he doesn't believe that, and Char seems to be hyper-focused on something. He in fact does know that new types are the future and wouldn't have entrusted Flanagan with Lalah if that were the case. He knows that new types will help in his goals towards toppling the Zabi. The Flanagan Institute is currently just a think tank, but it is on track to becoming an intelligence weapon for the military. That is when Lalah comes in and greets Char. Char realizes that Flanagan plans on using her to pilot the Elmith. Char is annoyed and wants to make a comment, but Lalah knows what he wants to say and tells him not to. He then asks about data on new types on whether or not being a virgin makes a difference. What a weird comment. But this makes Flanagan certain that he is indeed a new type. What an even weirder reaction to that comment. We learn that Lalah and her family escaped Side 5 during the destruction of Loom. Her family later died from other circumstances. She is a second-generation Spacenoid, and the pain and suffering from barely surviving the Battle of Loom is most likely what activated her new type potential. The Doctor watches Char and Lalah's interaction and realizes they have a deep bond. Char learns about Psychomu tech, but he wants to see a test. Flanagan states that negative stimulation does affect the user's effect on the Psychomu. They tested this with Lalah and animals. Char says, that's weird. Hey Lalah, how many dead animals did this asshole make you get a hold of to get this data? She says, oh, I held so many dead rabbits. Dr. Flanagan seems more like a mad scientist in this novel. They finally get the Psychomu up and running, and Lalah is able to make a test bit hover. Zeon has loaned an Elmith simulator for Lalah to use. She has already become an ace pilot in the simulator in no time. Later, after running tests, Char invites Lalah to the dining hall. She is now under Char's command, assigned the rank of ensign. His other mission is to turn this Flanagan student into a hardened Zeon soldier. They were not the only ones in the dining hall. In the room are other researchers who are watching a broadcast of Giren continuing his speech. Lalah isn't too hungry and just orders juice. He apologizes to her for what the scientists probably did to her in the name of data, but she seems fine with it considering her past and what she had to go through until she was eventually picked up by Zeon. She's just happy that she gets to work with Char. Lalah stares at Char knowing that she wants him to take off his mask. Giren's speech is over and everyone else has left. He takes his mask off to reveal a giant scar running down his face. He tells him that it was an accident that happened in a fencing duel with Garma. Of course, this was a lie. He in fact gave himself the scar before entering the military academy. This was to hide his facial features that closely resemble Zeon Daikun. It also gives him an excuse to wear the mask. He says that this is the most romantic he will probably ever get. Look at my ugly scar, look at it! Lalah is happy. I guess the scar does it for her. Zeon soldiers cheer on as Giren finishes his speech. Amuro is watching the funeral and says, Was that us? Did we do this? Shit, I think we killed him. The news broadcast mentions that it was in part due to the Pegasus-class ship. Bright scoffs at the Zabis who took Daikum's beliefs and turned it into a dictatorship. They are prepping to leave Luna 2 in 2 hours. The rest of the fleet has received the new gem, but the gun tanks and Gundam on board the Pegasus are superior, so they will be acting as a vanguard during Operation Star 1. Amuro video calls Frau Bo to say his goodbyes. She knows he is a soldier, but Frau still tells him to be careful. She says he will be waiting for her. Because of the lack of manpower in this version, it has been hard to find mechanics to help with repairs. Hayato and others are constantly trying to bend backwards just to keep their mobile suits functioning. All pilots are in charge of their own cleanup and refueling, and are stretched thin. Cleanup is apparently a crucial job as the catapult is super fragile, and a single screw left on the deck can cause catastrophic damage. Things are quite hectic. Someone accidentally leaves the comms on for everyone to hear while Slugger Law, who was recently assigned to the Pegasus, and Bright start to squabble. It is assumed by the crew that Bright gave Slugger a good slapping. The 13th Autonomous Corps finally sets sail. The Pegasus leaves with a Magellan-class ship, the Hall, along with 2 Salamis-class ships, the Cisco and the Saffron. They also have 6 public-class ships for added defense. Bright finally tells them that they are planning on taking out Granada. They will attack Solomon in tandem and eventually push their way towards Zeon's homeland. The first stage of this mission is to head to Texas colony to draw out the Granada fleet. Ryu recognizes that they are going to be acting as bait in this operation. For 77 years, there has been peace, but the violence caused by Zeon is no different than the warmongers of the old century. They kinda don't understand why Revel created this so-called new type autonomous corps, when dictators tend to undermine the value of life, whether or not they are new types. The team begins training exercises as they head towards the Texas zone. Ryu acts as the leader since he is the oldest, but he seems to want to focus on being more of a gun cannon specialist rather than acting as a point man. Some gems from the hull join the training exercise. They all work together to do mock attacks on the Cusco. They are exhausted from drilling non-stop. There is a technical manual for the Federation mobile suits that is said to be taken from a stolen Zaku manual. But this is the first time they documented mobile suit military strategy and training. This is all kind of new to them. A Lieutenant Commander Rudolph Ramsky tells them that they are being put in a position that most haven't experienced. They are effectively acting as test pilots during live battles, as mobile suits are still relatively new to the Federation. Kai and Amuro talk about Sayla's looks. Amuro says she is pretty, but he hates her voice. Aquafina is Sayla Mass. Make it happen, Legendary Pictures. Amuro briefs the crew on Char. They wonder if he is one of these new types. They continue discussing battle tactics for hours. The Texas Zone is named after a Texas colony, as it was the only Side 5 colony to survive the Battle of Loon. Like in origin, Texas colony was built after the American West, and a place for rich spacenoids to go camping. Those who survived fled the colony, and Zeon seized all the cattle after the Battle of Loon. In origin, Texas colony survived because Sayla was on the colony, and he wanted to protect her. At Granada, Casilia is being attacked. She gets reinforcements to help out in the Texas Zone. This includes Captain Makuve's squadron. Char is a higher rank than Makuve in this version. Makuve ledings his Chinese vase while getting mad at Char for not being able to save Garma. Char departs from Side 6. They're heading out to test the Elmith bits. He explains Psychomu Tech, but the one thing that he focuses on is the fact that it is free of Minovsky particle disruption. He wonders the potential of the new type Psychomu technology. Quick cut to that scene of the unicorns tanking a colony laser. Flanagan refers to it as willpower waves. It could be something that can be isolated and thus amplified. As he looks at Lalah on the bridge at the Zanzibar, he wonders if he would be able to pilot the Elmith. Lalah answers saying of course. Her senses are finely tuned, but he doesn't like this habit of hers and leaves the room. Lalah thinks of Char's broad shoulders and wishes he would embrace her. Wait, what? Broad shoulders? Hey man, I like Char and think he's a great villain. But broad shoulders? He's a lanky-ass skinny boy. Do people in Japan think our Lord and Savior Kira Yamato is a broad boy? I am a Western medium, but a Japanese large, so it is possible. Broad shoulders. Get out of here. Using her new type powers, she has probed his mind and felt something dark, but with clear intent and purpose. It is a purpose that shows he can never live a normal life. Whenever he probes deeper, he is able to shut her out. This ability in itself shows that Char is a strong new type. She thinks that to the commander, she is just a means to an end. For the moment, she seems to be okay with that. Amuro is now an officer and should be eating in the officers' quarters, but he eats with the NCOs out of habit. He passes by Midai before entering the chow hall. He comments on her figure and notes how she is the most popular Waves. Remember, Waves is women accepted for volunteer emergency service and was a part of the Naval Reserve during World War II. They are mirroring that in the Federation. He then sees Sayla from a distance. He has never actually met her. He has only communicated with her on the comms while in his mobile suit. He asks if he could join her. She seems to forget his name, and Amuro notes that communication officers should know everyone's names. He slams his food tray down too hard and makes his first interaction awkward. He cuts the tension by saying that he used to see her at the Side 7 library back in the day before he joined the military. This causes her to actually smile. He said that he thought about going to the library again to see her before leaving for the military. She wonders if he really is a new type. He remembers her past where General told her that he must become a new type and overthrow the Zabi family. She always hated these lectures from her foster father. She asks him if he knows what new types are. He doesn't believe in magic powers and doesn't like how the Zabis use new types as a form of propaganda. Ooh, that really turned Sayla on. Yeah, that did it for her. The opposite of my father figure. But he also says that the bureaucratic nonsense of the Federation is also a huge problem, and he doesn't mind if that collapses as well. He says that once people get into power, they forget about the people. She thinks that Amuro thinks exactly like her father, Zeon Daikun. She then tries to speak to him telepathically. Of course, Amuro didn't respond to her new type message, but while reaching out to him, she could sense that this guy is a virgin. Ew, what a loser. So gross. Orbiting Texas Colony is Makuve's Chevet-class ship. When Char's Zanzibar comes in, he sends a Morse code message to Makuve's ship saying good luck in battle. He tells Urigane to send a message back saying, we await triumphant return of the Red Comet and the Elmeth. Go in glory. Makuve calls Char Casilia's pet, while Char calls him a man who should chase skirts. They are both just slinging their dicks at one another. The Zanzibar docks with Texas Colony, while Makuve awaits Joaquin's 13th Autonomous Fleet heading their way. On the Pegasus, Marker Clan spots the Chevet. They assume level 2 battle stations. Sayla tells the Mobile Suit teams to be on standby. It takes about 30 seconds for the crew to attach the beam rifles and shield. The Gundam takes an even shorter amount of time to get ready. Marker yells out 11 Zaku's. 1 minute out, Sayla relays this to the pilots. They are outnumbered. Bright yells to launch. With them are 6 public attack ships. The gun cannon, the Gundam, and the 2 gems launch. One public launches missiles and breaks the Zaku's formation. The other 5 publics don't waste their main payload and use its 6-tube missile launcher instead. The Zaku's get in close and the Mobile Suit team moves in. Amuro barely misses an attack from the Zaku's Hyper Bazooka. In the novel, a lot of Mobile Suit tactics involve moving in and out of someone's orbit, and space in general is just more vast. It's kind of like asteroid fields, how you think they're very close, but in reality they're far away from one another. Something is coming 5 kilometers away. He aims his beam rifle and fires, hitting the Zaku. He turns around to find more Mobile Suits approaching Joaquin's ship. He rushes towards a command Zaku who was about to fire on the fleet, but Amuro shoots first, taking out another Mobile Suit. He mentions that the computer readout will transfer to the core block system if anything goes wrong with the Gundam. Another Zaku comes in. Amuro barely dodges the attack. The Zaku comes in again with the Heat Hawk. Amuro fires his beam rifle at point-blank range, killing the pilot. His beam rifle is out of juice, and he dumps it and pulls out the beam saber. 3 Mobile Suits down. He rushes into close combat range as 2 Zaku's approach. He slices through one. The other deflects, but Amuro is able to eventually slice through his Heat Hawk. 5 down. Ryu and the Gem apparently took out 2 Mobile Suits. The remaining 4 Zaku's retreat. They lost 2 public-class ships, and 4 were damaged. However, he gets back to the deck where only Kai returned. Ryu was killed in action. Amuro notes that there are only 3 of the original 5 cadets left. Hayato yells at Kai for not bringing back Ryu, and the two begin fighting. Amuro's mind is racing, but his body is quite calm. He lays in a recliner and simply tells Hayato to wake him if anything happens. Zeon is planning on sending reinforcements, but they are trying to figure out if EFF's play is to push towards Granada or Solomon. They note the superb performance of the Pegasus and Joaquin's Magellan, the HAL. The 13th detected an enemy fleet coming from Granada to Texas Zone. Joaquin sends Amuro out once again. It has been non-stop lately. However, while this is happening, they are unaware that Char is already in Texas Colony. Commander Char told Makuve and his fleet that the Pegasus can hold 6 to 8 Mobile Suits. He knows that they don't have aces and everybody on board must be green. They just need more numbers than them. Sayla gets on the comms and tells Amuro that he has to go out on a scouting mission as they lost sight of Zeon's fleet. She tells him that Bright fought to keep him grounded so he could get some rest, while Joaquin is forcing him to launch. He also isn't launching Hayato, and Sayla says it is because Bright only trusts Amuro. Sayla has been letting her guard down more around Amuro since their conversation in the mess hall. Meanwhile, Hayato is mad, but Kai tells him that they aren't new types and to get used to the life of being just a gun cannon specialist. You're a grunt, deal with it. His pride won't allow him to think that they are these supermen that are better than the rest of humanity. He doesn't care if Revel and Zeon are building new type forces. He simply won't believe it. They ramp up Hayato's pride like crazy in the novel. Dude reeks of desperation. Amuro is scouting with 4 public-class ships. As he approaches Texas Colony, a beam blast approaches them. He dodges the attack, but the beam clipped and vaporized the bazooka on his back. 2 Musais are now at the Chevet-class ship around Texas. The Gundam fires on one of the Musais. He then fires on the Chevet, but one Musai blocks the ship and is destroyed. 2 Zaku's approach him. One fires a rocket into the Gundam's right arm. Getting cocky at taking down a ship allowed him to be vulnerable. The arm still works, but the rifle no longer fires. This is what happens when you care about hand-to-gun authentication procedures. His other arm is holding the shield and is busy. He takes out his beam saber and slices through one Zaku. The other Zaku is nowhere to be found. He finds a hangar on Texas Colony and he hides out. This will give him a moment to check out his arm. He parks the Gundam and checks the arm out. There's no quick fix for the damage done. He needs a bazooka. He notes that because the beam rifle requires precision aim, it taxes the pilot more so than a bazooka. One can make instantaneous attacks with a bazooka. Makuve is unable to get a hold of Char within the colony. They are currently under attack and need help of the Zanzibar. Makuve can handle this on his own. He sees the HAL take a hit and it goes up in flames. He praises his mobile suit pilots for taking down Joaquin's flagship. They have to move in on the Pegasus. The Chevet takes a big hit and does a wide turn. The Saffron is in front of the Pegasus. Bright is informed that Hayato took off without permission. He begins yelling on the bridge. He is stressed out by the destruction of the HAL. Sayla tells Hayato to return to the ship immediately. Hayato is an idiot and took off while 2 battleships duke it out. He is stuck in the middle of the crossfire, but he notices the Chevet is badly damaged and goes in to help. He fires on the ship as well as the remaining Musai, which is the Quamel. He is able to hit the aft cannon on the Chevet. The Chevet goes up in flames. The Quamel tries to make its retreat. Pegasus sends a flare for the team to regroup, but Hayato ignores this. The remaining Zaku enters the hangar and begins firing. Amuro hides behind a transport ship. He thinks that he could steal the bazooka from the Zaku. He was able to sense the Zaku. While doing so, he sees an image of a girl with emerald green eyes. He wonders, hey, what's this all about? He hears the girl say, "Who are you? And what do you want from me?" He wonders if she is talking to him. He gets his first Newtype erection before once again sensing the Zaku. The Zaku slices down with its Seedhawk. Amuro dodges and points his beam rifle, using it as a blunt instrument and striking the Zaku. He then fires his beam rifle, taking out the Zaku and destroying the transport ship he was hiding behind. Before firing, Amuro could sense that there was one person on the transport ship, and he decided to fire anyways. Amuro feels like that girl in his head is currently judging him. He grabs the bazooka when he gets sensor again. He senses that her name is Lalah Soon. She says that he is too late and is already in love with Char. Amuro is too ignorant to realize the Newtype connection he is currently having. Does she mean the Red Comet? Lalah asks him why didn't he reach out earlier. Amuro goes, I don't even know what is happening right now. How could I? She says that he has to stop her. At that moment, he thinks that perhaps Sayla was right, and there truly are Newtypes. He is starting to become a believer. That is when he feels a darkness. He could feel Char. Char tells Lalah to get out of there. He spotted the Federation mobile suit and its pilot, but goes to help Lalah. Amuro watches the two and starts to realize what she meant by being too late. Amuro is more attracted to her when she is taken. That's probably not the healthiest erection to get, but we have no time to break down the psychology of what is happening. We have to fight with robots. A voice inside his head tells him to get out of there fast. His beam rifle is low on energy. He grabs the bazooka from the Zaku from last episode. Char and Lalah flee into the colony. Behind him is the Pegasus and gun cannons. Rather than go and support his team, he lets his erection do the talking and heads into Texas Colony. Like in the anime, Texas Colony has high winds, low oxygen, and a lack of greenhouse gases, so explosions don't completely go off because it's slightly exposed to space. It still has oxygen. The novel confirms that, like Origin, this was designed to be a Westworld-like colony, or, to quote the book, a simulation of the Wild West. Amuro scans the colony looking for the two. Little did he know that Lalah and Char were making their way to the port side of the colony, getting ready to flee in the Zanzibar. While Lalah heads back to the ship, Char faces off with the Gundam. He wasn't anticipating the Federation to have new types at this stage already. They dumped too many Minovsky particles as Char is getting nothing but static on the radar. The Cisco and the Saffron stayed outside, while the Pegasus head in to dock with Texas Colony. Bright calls Hayato back and switches with Kai. He was able to escape punishment for launching without permission because he shot down a few ships. He turns to Mirai, but she says to prep for a missile barrage. She is already able to sense Bright's orders before he gives them out. On a colony, each end of the tube has its own dock. There is a core in the colony for service maintenance purposes that connects the two docks, allowing Bright to fire missiles through the colony and to the other end, Star Wars style. The missile barrage smokes out the Zanzibar on the other side and enters into the colony. Sayla's shift ends and she uses this opportunity to go find her brother. She makes it out of the hangar and finds a dune buggy. There is enough air to breathe in the colony, but she still wears a normal suit to keep the sand out of her eyes. Also, that air isn't going to exist pretty soon. Lalah and Dr. Flanagan are in a convoy with the Elmet, almost to the Zanzibar, when Bright's missile barrage goes off around them. Lalah pleads to Flanagan to let her take off in the Elmet before the Zanzibar is destroyed. Flanagan is annoyed by all the sand in his butt crack, but she ignores him and doesn't even wait for his answer. Even though he ignored her, he yells at her to wear a normal suit. Lalah relates the look of the Elmet to a yellow-crested cockatoo. I mean, yeah, I kinda see it. The Zanzibar launches its mobile suit. Amuro watches the convoy, but Char sneaks up behind him. He tackled Amuro so hard airbags go off and his spine would have snapped without him. I sit in my chair wrong and I'm hunched over for weeks? How are most mobile suit pilots still standing straight? Char is starting to feel the limitations of the Zaku while fighting the Gundam. He curses the fact that he doesn't have a beam rifle. Both mobile suits are adjusting to fighting in near-Earth-like gravity. Remember, we aren't going to Earth in this novel, so this is the closest we are getting to an Earth battle. Public attack ships go out to support the Pegasus on the other side of the colony. Kai is taking out Zaku's trying to protect the ship. The Zanzibar skipper is a veteran and waited an allotted time for the next volley of missiles. This is a situation where brash youth wins, as Bright fires until they have nothing left, gravely damaging the Zanzibar. If both did an all-out fire at the same time, the Zanzibar would have most likely won. There is a lesson about experience in battle and how it only goes so far. We don't have time for lessons, we gotta get back to battling. At this point, the colony is in ruins as ships fire back and forth. Out of the flames comes Lalah and the Elmet. The remaining public-class ships head towards Lalah. Her instincts kick in, and so too does the Psychomu system. Dr. Flanagan eventually found a way to convert psycho waves into human-readable language. He called this the Psycho Communicator, or as we know it, the Psychomu. The doctor originally found it hard to categorize the different human brainwaves, but what was much harder was to test for new type abilities. New types come in all shapes and sizes, and can be super geniuses or psychic ghosts. Intuition, artistic ability, leadership qualities, these are all variables that define a new type. Even those who exhibit a strong sense of self-worth show new type potential. Lalah soon wasn't herself high in IQ, but she exhibits one of the best connections with a Psychomu system. Flanagan realized that new types in this current time are ineffable. There is not a word or metric that can define them. None of that mattered to Casilia Zabi. All she was concerned about was that new types can be used in war. Flanagan was silenced by the Zabis. But even with the gag order, new type theory seemed to have flourished amongst the people. As Amuro and Char fight with close combat weapons, the Red Comet curses himself for not being a new type. He thinks he isn't one simply because he is losing. The Gundam's drive shaft is at its limits. He is able to kick the Heat Hawk out of Char's hand. The beam saber slices into the neck of the Zaku. Char's arm no longer functions. He curses himself. That is when he hears Lalah yell, "Commander." She unleashes her bits on the Gundam. Amuro drops Char and begins evasion. This is the first time someone survived an attack from the Elmeth bits. Outside, the Cisco and Saffron are damaging the outer wall of the colony. The Pegasus and Zanzibar are now in close proximity of one another. The Zanzibar's reinforced armor is better than the Pegasus, but it does have weak spots. Mirai takes the ship low to the colony floor. She then swings by the Zanzibar where the Pegasus unloads rockets onto the Zeon ship, leaving it more of a husk than it once was. However, it still was functional enough to fire its cannons on the Pegasus before crashing into the colony, causing a giant colony quake. Sayla goes racing across the colony in search for Char. She locates the Red Zaku. Char made an emergency landing. She notices him reaching for an oxygen mask. Now with major holes throughout the colony, the oxygen has drastically reduced. She runs over and yells for Cassival. He realizes that it is his sister and wonders what she is doing here of all places. She wants him to quit the military and to return to the Federation with her. He says, "Are you kidding me? I'm Char Aznable." She urges him to at least leave the military. Char says, "Hey man, have some perspective. We might not even make it off this colony. And even if we do, still, no." He does a reverse Uno and says she should quit the Federation and never show herself in front of him again. He then steals her dune buggy, limiting her chances to survive. "I love you, sister, and I hope you survive, but also I'm taking your chances to survive. Bye." So mysterious, this Char fellow. In Sayla's helmet, she hears the Pegasus order the crew to abandon ship. Lalah and Amuro have been fighting with each other this whole time. One bit takes out the Gundam's leg. Amuro is taking many G's to the face just to dodge the bits. Amuro briefly wonders how the Psychomo system works, as there must be Minovsky particles all over the area. He takes out one bit. The Elmeth fires its megaparticle cannon. While fighting, Lalah could sense Amuro's grief. She didn't feel any anger coming from him, even in the heat of the moment. As they fight, the two create a new type psychic link. They can see each other clearly, as though they are right in front of one another. Sayla was able to exit the colony through one of the giant holes and make it to the Saffron. Bright, Mirai, and Hayato, along with some of the surviving Pegasus members, flee towards the Texas colony port. Char makes it back to what little remains of his fleet. A giant green light emerges. Everyone on the battlefield can sense it. It even extends towards Solomon, where General Revel is currently on his way towards Granada for a direct attack. For a moment, both Lalah and Amuro could see beyond infinity. The Elmeth and the Gundam clash. Amuro's beam saber connects, destroying the cockpit and vaporizing Lalah. The mobile armor's reactor goes off, tearing another hole in the colony, causing the Gundam to fling out into space. He ejects into the core fighter. Amuro killed the one person he needed the most. The world still isn't ready for new types to awaken. UC 0080. The war is still not over. Several nukes go off. Texas colony is self-destructing. The Saffron and the Cusco head inside to find the Pegasus crew, but the fire caused the port to rupture, and there was nothing more they could do. The novel goes into detail about the colony mirrors reflecting so much light during the explosion that Casilia and General Revel could see it from far away. Charzaku was destroyed. The Elmeth was able to destroy the Gundam, but Amuro was able to eject in the core fighter. He makes a beeline out of the colony as it falls apart. Amuro remembers Lieutenant Ralph saying, "If the power fails, your instruments are as useful as sunglasses in a cave at midnight. Nothing will ever beat your eyes and ears." As he makes his escape, he loses consciousness. But as he loses control of his body, his subconscious goes stronger. He asks Lalah what happened. The whole situation happened in about 20 minutes. In that time, Amuro grew a sense of understanding between him and Lalah that felt more intimate than anything he felt from Frau Bo, who he knew his whole life. Unlike the anime, where Lalah's death comes at a time where Amuro was almost already a fully realized new type. In the novel, Lalah's death is the catalyst that triggers Amuro's new type powers. He then resorts to anger. He wonders why she fought with Char. He wonders if she is in love with the Red Comet. He is speaking to Lalah, but she doesn't answer him. Meanwhile, Amuro is in a comatose state while floating out in space. Texas colony collapses behind him. Life support systems will only last so long. General Revel is heading towards Granada at the same time Texas goes up in flames. Any survivors of the 13th Autonomous Fleet links up with Revel by orbiting counterclockwise while Revel's fleet orbits the opposite direction. Revel's battleship, the Drog, sent a message, "Butterflies in the desert." This is code to begin the attack on Granada. Everyone groups up around the Trafalgar-class ship. There are 17 Coral-class heavy cruisers, 20 Salamis-class ships, and 65 public attack ships. The Coral-class ship is a heavy space cruiser seen only in the novels. It has a higher firepower than the Magellan-class ship and is designed to rival the Chevet-class ship. In terms of design, it most likely looks like a tinier Alexandria-class ship. These ships were made before Minovsky particle interference became a thing. Also with him is Vice Admiral Carroll's fleet, consisting of his Trafalgar-class ship, the Garibaldi, 7 Magellans, 8 Salamis-class ships, and 30 public-class ships. Each Trafalgar carries 60 Cosmo fighters. These are DOP-like fighters that are now obsolete in the age of Minovsky particle disruption. Now they have been reduced to hit-and-run attacks. As Zeon advanced their Zaku mobile suits, EFF just kept pumping out Cosmo fighters and falling behind. The closest they have to something mass-produced is the VX-76, nicknamed Mr. Balls. This is the novel's version of the ball. It is too primitive to hold a beam rifle, and still is a flying coffin. Although still in testing and not in the mass production phase, they still have 40 gems, while the Gundam and gun cannon essentially are doing live testing. They need to catch up fast. As the attack begins, Revel says the phrase, "Tora, Tora, Tora," the phrase used during the attack on Pearl Harbor. Also a good movie. Go watch the movie Tora, Tora, Tora. It's way better than Pearl Harbor. Revel and Carroll's fleet begin descending into Granada. Zeon detected their forces and gathered to show resistance. Casilia hasn't had any word from Giren. Abawaku Space Forces won't provide help until they have Revel's route of attack. In the novel, they describe Casilia's mask as a rubbery texture that fits over her face like a thin piece of skin. I like to think that it looks like Snake Eye's lips in that terrible G.I. Joe movie. In this version, she also uses it to hide the stench, but also as a good luck charm, as the only time she didn't wear it into battle, someone exploded next to her, thus causing her smell fetish. Revel's public-class ship begins moving in. They fire missiles that emit an electromagnetic field capable of mitigating beam weapons. Zeon has to switch to ballistics. Cosmo fighters begin swooping in and dropping bombs. Salamis and Musais begin firing at one another. Jims and Mr. Balls also join, though probably not ready for the big leagues just yet. Carol's forces attack in the east. Zeon is on the defensive the entire time. Casilia gives the orders to retreat. She says to tell HQ and Giren that if they had one more fleet, Granada wouldn't have fallen. She gets on the Zanzibar-class ship, the Swalmel. The Swalmel in the anime is under Drin's command and is a Salamis. She abandons Granada. Granada is now in the hands of the Federation. This gives them a perfect base of operation to begin their assault on Side 3, Zeon's homeland. They renamed Granada to FS, or First Step. Out of the darkness, Amuro emerges from the light as he is reborn. He then talks to his mother, wondering why she never came to the colonies with him and his dad. In this Oedipus complex moment he is having, he goes through anger, resentment, and denial, all while wondering why Mommy abandoned him. In the distance is a high-pitched sound. For a moment, Amuro thinks it is Lalah singing. Amuro came to consciousness to a girl giggling. It is a girl named Cusco Al. They are on a ship called the Caseta 3. Their transport spotted him in space. He drifts back to sleep where he has a dream about his mother naked, wearing nothing but a red cross, sleeping with a man that isn't Tim Ray. Okay. She begins calling him ungrateful and chases after him. He wakes up to Cusco Al and tells her his nightmares. Maybe not. He notes the artificial gravity is set to Earth gravity, as it is harsh on his joints. Bro, talk to me when you can do push-ups under 100 times Earth gravity. Weak. Their ship is heading to Side 6, specifically Balda Bay. Amuro meets with Captain Famira Ashul and Ishfahan. Amuro wants to know where his pod is. He wants it destroyed. However, the regulations state that it is their property until they dock at Side 6, and then they can hand it over to the Federation consulate. However, the captain decides to turn over his core fighter once it clears customs from Side 6. Amuro doesn't like that option as well. He takes him to view his core fighter, which he calls a capsule to not give away the fact that it is a core to a Gundam. While looking at the core fighter, his worst fears turned out to be a reality. He is on a Zeon transport ship. The captain says it'll take 2 days minimum, 1 week max to pass customs. Something doesn't seem right to Amuro. Even though Side 6 is neutral, they tend to lean towards Zeon. The president of Side 6, Rank Kipradon, is rumored to be working with Casilia. It seems it is just the captain who is allowing him to roam free, as everyone seems to want him to be a prisoner of war, except for Cusco. He wonders, where does Cusco Al fit into all of this? Amuro asks Cusco for a cup of coffee. In the novel, he describes her hair as chestnut, though her only appearance is in Giren's Greed, and her hair is pink. The two flirt. He's being flirtatious on purpose to get intel. But interestingly, Cusco can sense this, yet still helps. He wonders if she is a new type, but he has no connection to her, like he did with Lalah. The two drink their vending machine coffee as Amuro tells her that he needs to get his capsule, or his superiors will have his head. She says that they are docking soon, so if he plans on doing something, he better do it soon. She asks to help, which confuses and arouses Amuro. Usually I'm making jokes about Amuro being aroused. Not in the novel. This is all Tomino's doing. Cusco is able to convince the deck to allow them to do a spacewalk to take a photo of Side 6. They somehow allow this? Side 6 only consists of 8 colonies. Balda Bay is the biggest structure ever created by man. Amuro floats out to the core fighter. Someone was definitely in it, as the self-destruct mechanism was removed. Luckily, there's a dummy box which contains extra explosives and a flare. He sets the explosives as alarms go off on the ship. The core fighter explodes. He wonders why Cusco helped him. She says it is because he is cute. They are surrounded. Char is visiting Casilia at Abawaku. She reads his report on Texas Colony. Only he and a few of the Zanzibar crew were able to get out. They jettison out into space, where they were picked up by a Musai heading towards Granada. But once they got word of its fall, they changed course towards Abawaku. In the novel, Abawaku was 2 asteroids that were joined together, which means the upside-down penis look was a choice. They refer to it as an umbrella, but it is totally an upside-down pointy dick. While on the asteroid, she is trying to recoup as many Casilia loyalists as possible. Their numbers are far and few between now. Char sees that Dozel and Giren didn't lift a finger and wanted Casilia to fall. The Zabi family seems to be unraveling. He hopes it falls apart without him having to lift a finger. In her attempt to bolster her numbers, Casilia is considering starting a new type core. It also seems Giren is planning on luring Federation forces in between Solomon and Abawaku and taking them out with one blow. Char knows of this too because of Garma. She knows he isn't making any real progress and no one blow will win a war. Her desire for a new type force makes Char confused, as he is on the same page. She even says that new types are the future. He agrees, but what is their game? He doesn't really care, but it does put the two's ideals on the same page in regard to controlling the Flanagan Institute. He thinks of the new type connection between Amuro and Lalah. At first it angers him, and he is glad she is dead, but then states that they were both able to reach a state of universal wisdom. He wished that could happen for everyone. Casilia's commander, Garcia Dozel, investigated a man that transported helium-3 from Jupiter. His name is Char and he is a promising candidate for her new type group. Char wonders why a potential new type isn't on the front lines. But this was actually a recommendation from Giren. He seems to want his hands in everything. The next is Crambo Corella, a former Zaku pilot. Another happens to be Lieutenant Junior Grade Cusco Al. She is currently on her way towards Balda Bay. This chapter starts with a neat little fun fact. Side 6 decided to opt out of reproducing the 4 seasons on Earth, so things are random, or decided by the people. They don't specify who makes the decisions. However, every 4 or 5 years, they program in heavy rain or snowstorms to remind the people that they are a part of an ecosystem and to not get too lazy. A guy in the consulate has an easy life on Side 6. His gig involves monitoring over the Flanagan Institute. Amuro asks him what that is. He says it is where Zeon trains their new types. Amuro thought that that is in violation of the Antarctic Treaty, as Side 6 is neutral. The guy says, "Welcome to the real world, kid. This is why letting kids in without experience with the opposite sex in the military is a bad idea." Amuro doesn't understand what the opposite sex has to do with this. His commander says this as well. I think he's referring to his old Mobile Suit commander Revel, and not Bright in this moment. This man is Lieutenant List Hayashida, and he is a spy for General Revel, working as the Federation consulate for Side 6. Cusco Al tried to sneak him into Balda Bay after Customs gave him a hard time. Amuro is worried about the core fighters still. List tells him that Cusco isn't an official employee, but is at the Institute daily. She is a new type. List asks about the core fighter. He mentions it is just an escape pod for a gym, but List isn't buying it. Revel personally told him to watch over Amuro, and he doesn't get it. He gives Amuro Cusco Al's ID and location. After talking to List, it dawns on him that he is being set up. Amuro heads to the Flanagan Institute to meet with Cusco, knowing that List was probably tailing him. They didn't plan this meeting, but she knew that he would come for her, which is why she is wearing a dress. As they head out, the two banter back and forth. He wonders if she is using psychology to trick him. She said absolutely nothing, but he sensed that she is calling him a baby. Amuro is triggered. He stops the car and gives her the boot before taking off. He realizes how stupid that interaction was. But it's too late now. He has to commit to it. Good job, buddy. The Federation forces took over Granada and renamed it First Step, or FS. This functions as the Federation forces' base of operation as they set their sights on Side 3 and Abawaku. The Von Braun side was named LH, or Lacombe, as it faces Earth. From Balda Bay, Amuro hitched a ride on a Salamis ship, the Trichigan, heading back to Earth. Back in the arms of the Federation, it seems like he is being treated like an executive officer, but in reality it seemed like he was a prisoner. Also on the ship is List, who the crew is keeping at a distance. Amuro hopes that he never meets Cusco Al again, because it would most likely just end up being another Lalah situation. It has been 2 weeks since the Battle of Texas Colony. The Trichigan docks with FH when Amuro meets the Pegasus crew. He assumed they all died during the battle. He was hoping to see Ryu, but then reality hits him. The captain tells Amuro congratulations, and they look forward to his future successes with the 127th Autonomous Squadron. He doesn't seem to know too much, but it seems that Amuro was handpicked by General Revel. Everyone crowds around Amuro, welcoming him back. They got word that he was on Side 6, and they have been waiting for him. General Revel is waiting to meet with him. They all head out on Elicars and fill him in on what he missed. He learns that they lost the ship, but Operation Star 1 was successful. As the Federation makes their push, Zeon seems to be struggling with an internal conflict amongst the Zabi family. Then Amuro goes, "Oh hey, Mirai, you got a little fat." His autism is poking out again. It was because of Sayla that they were able to get out of Texas Colony alive. They think she may be a new type, and she is, but they don't know that she is from Texas Colony as well. Bright mentions that she says she is from Side 7 like him. The kids head back to the ship while Bright and Amuro enter the HQ. Amuro wonders what ship. It is the Pegasus 2. He realizes they are shipping out the battle real soon. General Revel calls Amuro a true new type. He says that Zeon is stalling because they believe they are developing a secret weapon, something that is capable of hitting the moon from Zeon territory. This is the colony laser. They don't have to build a new one either, since Giren is going full dictator. He just has to boot people out of a colony. Uprooting civilization and culture? Easy peasy. The rumor about Zeon forming a new type team seems to be true, which is why Revel is forming his own new type group. This is the 127th Autonomous Squad, with Pegasus 2 functioning as the vanguard. Revel says that the Elmeth that Amuro took out was certainly a mobile armor designed for new types. He goes, "Good job, boy. The way you vaporized that mobile armor? Solid work." Amuro goes, "Thanks, I guess. Scars and shit, but whatever." Revel says that he isn't waiting for the desk jockeys over at Jaburo, and they are taking action now. That's straight up a jab at Gop. Suck it, Gop. Bright believes that Jaburo is a bigger problem than Zeon. Bright doing a little bit of Titan shadowing over here. Around Abawaku, Char is testing out the new Rick Dome. There is a 360-degree shock absorber installed in the cockpit to help with the G-forces. He mentions that the Dom bazooka is on the same level as a Musai's main cannon. Char is certain he could take care of the white mobile suit with this. A fleet is approaching in the distance. When he fires and destroys the ship, he is with 5 other Doms. This happens to be a mock battle. The Red Comet says they would all be dead if this were real. They all roll it back and run the mock battle once again. He sees that the Elmeth is also running simulations with them, and he thinks that Lalah is probably the only real new type. He now has a team of combat veterans on his side. His Dom team tries the new type technique called Formation G. It involves 6 Rick Doms surrounding the target in a circle across a 500-kilometer diameter, then slowly pushing in, shrinking that circle until the enemy is hit by one of their bazookas. Seems like there would be a little bit of crossfire there. However, the Elmeth is able to push through and isolate one Dom with its bits. They pick off one Dom at a time. It is a real pilot and not a simulation. The Elmeth's bits take out Char's leg. He goes on the retreat. The Elmeth is able to take him and the remaining Dom out. He senses a female is piloting the Elmeth and he gets mad. Char wonders if it is Cusco out. She's just going to end up like Lalah. Her voice comes over the comms. It is Cusco. At LH, Mas Khan is explaining the latest improvements to the mobile suit. This version of the Gundam has the magnetic coating. They haven't improved the reactor, but with the magnetic coating, he should get a significant boost in mobility. That a new engine won't be necessary. They are still figuring out how to mitigate G-forces in the cockpit, something the Dom has unlocked before EFF. He is happy that the Gundam still has eyes, unlike the Gems. Amuro says that there is something very human, yet uncanny about the Gundam having 2 eyes like a human. While in the cockpit, he sees and feels the warm light. He thinks it is Lalah, but it soon vanishes, and he thinks it is just his imagination. He felt a chill. He wonders if new types are merely tools of destruction. Will his fate be no different than Lalah's? The new mobile suit has the grace of a boxer. Amuro launches in G3. The RX-78-3 G3 Gundam is a testbed mobile suit that was used to master the magnetic coating. It is equipped with the NICN system, the newest version of the learning computer that was also used on Alex Gundam. This retains the core block system and hardpoints. Weapons include 60mm Vulcans, a saber which can be swapped for a beam javelin, a beam rifle, a hyper bazooka, a shield, the Gundam hammer, and the hyper hammer. In the novel, it doesn't seem like it's a part of the BOA line of beam rifles, though it still has the same firepower. He takes off. The power is amazing, but he wonders why the engineers didn't reinforce the armor. He hasn't realized that EFF treats life as expendable yet. Amuro wonders if this is what Lalah was trying to warn him about. Even if Amuro is a new type, he is still a Federation pilot and must follow orders, not ponder the universe. Staying alive is what he needs to focus on. On the Pegasus 2, Marker Clan picks up the new Gundam moving in. He docks with his new ship. I assume the design resembles a second-wave Pegasus ship like the Albion or the Grey Phantom. Since they mentioned the bridge looks more horse-like, Sayla guides him to Hatch 1. When he lands and gets out, he is met with Petty Officer First Class Callahan Slay. Once back on the ship, Amuro thought that he would have a moment to breathe, but he and Kai started running training exercises. There are 2 other mobile suit pilots on board, Ensign Sarkis McGovern and Ensign Kriya Maha. Seeing familiars like Marker and Oscar made him feel at ease. But fuck you, Kai. While in the cockpit, he thought he felt the presence of Lalah. But then, Sayla comes on the radio. Amuro then realizes that he's really horny. He decides he is going to try to hook up with Sayla. The Zabi High Council has a meeting. At this meeting is Prime Minister Darchia Bakura, even though Side 3 has civilian government. Just like Degwin, they are simply Giren's puppet in all of this. Most of the other ministers are in the pockets of the Zabis already. Dozel is frustrated, but at this point he trusts Casilia. Or more so, Casilia is a canary in the coal mine for Dozel. Once she stops pushing back against Giren, then he should be worried. They're there to discuss the system project. Darcia briefs everyone on the plan. It consists of taking a colony and coating the insides with aluminum. This can be used as a powerful weapon of mass destruction. They will have to evacuate one of the colonies and will have to work with every industry within it. Everyone is in agreement and needs Degwin to sign off. Darcia gives the proposal to Degwin to sign off on. He says my eldest son is a blot on my honor. Darcia didn't know what to think of this. He then mentions Casilia and wonders if he means for Casilia to oppose Giren. Darcia gives the proposal back to Giren. While giving a speech, Degwin walks out of the room. The Pegasus 2 was doing training exercises before returning to LH Moonbase. They don't know when they are going to ship out again, as High Command never tells Bright anything. Sayla takes Amuro to his new quarters. Everyone is already used to the new ship. Amuro could sense that Sayla was sad. He is checking her out while they navigate through the ship. Amuro tells Sayla not to call him ensign. He is not flirting well. While in the hangar, he runs into Matilda Agent. It's all the girls Amuro thinks about late at night in his quarters in one place. But with Matilda is Lieutenant Woody, who is the one in charge of maintenance for the ship, and Matilda's boyfriend. All of Amuro's youthful energy escapes him. I would suggest jumping off the ledge, but you're in 0G. You will just float in all that cringe. No suicide for you today. Sayla says I'm so embarrassed for you. Your quarters are this way. Can I go now? Amuro asks Sayla to join him for a meal. Military-grade food. She agrees. He goes to shower before meeting with her. Amuro contemplates what's with the aura she has. It is more than sadness. There is something dark in there. This is, of course, her hiding the fact that she is the daughter of Zeon. The two have their date. Sayla mentions she wasn't on the ship when Pegasus went down. She tells him she was looking for an escape route as something was pulling her, leaving out the part where she met up with her brother Char. Amuro thinks maybe she is a new type. New types don't have superpowers, however. She then mentions that she has a brother and there was a weird connection when he is around. She mentions it's like a seizure. Amuro thinks this is when two new types are on the same wavelength, just like he and Lalah soon. He then guesses correctly that her brother is Char. He did it half-jokingly, but she wonders how he knew. Amuro says, I don't know, new type stuff I guess? She even tells Amuro that her father is Zeon Daikun. Then she says, maybe I made it up. Playing hard to get with the geopolitical expansion pack is taking it to a whole new level. He tells her that he had new type connections with Lalah and Cusco Al. He will most likely have to face her next. Kai comes over and tries to smooth talk Sayla, but she says, I got a man right here. Nice. While Amuro is with a woman that likes him, he decides to think of other women. Focus, dude. Shalia Bul, Char, and Cusco Al gather at a Bawaku. There is something about Cusco Al that irritates Char. She was originally from Argentina, but moved to Side 3 during the forced immigration period. She wasn't originally a part of this meeting. There doesn't seem to be any loyalty between the three. Even Chalia is originally under Giren as a spy, so even Char can't completely trust him. They are treading lightly, but their loyalties lie with Casilia currently, and this might change depending on how the wind blows. Personally, Chalia is just here to understand new types. He doesn't believe that he is one, but he is very fascinated in Daikun's teachings. As a person who has been to Jupiter, perhaps he understands living in space the best. He says that Daikun is the politician they need today. Chalia says men with personal ambition and hidden agendas are people you don't want to trust. Char wonders, does he know who I am? Chalia and Char tell Cusco Al to let the men handle this, and they head to the bar to begin their potential coup. Char trusts Chalia more than Cusco Al. Amuro and Sayla hook up. He wakes up to a bad dream while holding on to Sayla's boobs. Sayla then wakes up crying. She takes a shower and tells Amuro that Char might do something horrible in the name of new types. She wants him to kill her brother. This greatly turns off Amuro. He says that he doesn't kill for personal reasons, and he may never see Char on the battlefield again. She doesn't like the Sayla she is becoming. He takes a shower and gets back in bed with her. He's over being mad for now. Casilia and her forces are moving from Granada to a Bawaku, while Dozel is linking up with Solomon before making an attack on LH. This is intel just given to General Revel. Revel notes that the Zabi forces are equally divided, which will be their downfall. But he doesn't know where Zeon's new type unit is moving, perhaps a Bawaku. Revel also knows about the evacuation of Mahal Colony, but not why. Meanwhile, Amuro and his insecurities are interrupted by a Stage 1 alert. Oh, thank God. He rushes towards the hangar and gets into G3. Sayla is already on the bridge, talking to Amuro on the comm. What does a red alert walk of shame look like? Amuro mentions G3 is 16 meters. Just 16 meters in the novel, huh? He launches and releases the safety on his beam rifle. He flies instantly into Minovsky particle interference. Eyes don't fail me now. Suddenly, something looks like it is breaking through the defensive perimeter. Amuro wonders why Fetties are letting the enemy get so close. He fires his rifle, mainly to get the attention of the rest of the Federation. LH is attacked. In the novel, justification for fights devolving into close combat battles is due to a lack of any real standard protocol, as mobile suits are still new. So all fights just apparently end in clashing with one another. Ensign Sarkis and Kriya and Gems come to back up Amuro. He sees the Pegasus in his peripheral. One Salamis overextends itself. That is when a mobile armor takes down the Fetty cruiser. Amuro is certain that is what Lalah was piloting. The Flanagan Institute seems to utilize new types more so than the Federation. Kai and Hayato join the battle. 6 more mobile suits approach in a V formation. Kai and Hayato protect the thoroughbred. Think Ford's on board? He shoots down one of the mobile suits, and the Zeon squad breaks formation. They don't know what they are fighting. It may be a goof. Kai is supposed to be focusing on long-range support with the gun cannon. Get it together, Kai. A sound shudders throughout Amuro's body. Sayla and Mirai could hear it, but not Bright. Mirai moves the ship without Bright's commands, but this causes them to dodge a beam rifle attack. Amuro, Mirai, and Sayla seem to be in sync with one another, which is frustrating Bright. He thinks, is this a new type? Amuro dodges debris and finds the same mobile armor Lalah soon piloted. The Elmith. It fires at the Gundam with its beam cannon. He has to act fast or it will kill him. The magnetic coating is saving his life. He needs to think quickly. Amuro gets a hit on the mobile armor and pulls back when suddenly he senses the red comet approaching. He gets visual confirmation and notices the skirt is different. It is the Char custom Rickdome. Char is relying on hit-and-run tactics. Amuro is getting frustrated. The Red Comet realizes this is a different Gundam and not the one he fought on Texas. Chalya is also in a Rickdome. Char thinks that Chalya possesses more skill than him. He wonders where Cusco Al went, not knowing she was hit. Amuro is getting nervous. Amuro gets into some crossfire. Char and his team are losing ground, so they decide to retreat. The Pegasus 2 returns to LH, where Revel promotes everyone, except for Slugger, poor Slugger, as their new type core. They need the confidence of high command to move forward in battle. Jaburo doesn't like this, as everyone is too young. They all gather in the mess hall. Amuro tells them that the power of a new type boner is quite strong, though he doesn't go into detail about Lalah soon. Bright says most people would think this new type speak is crazy talk. Kai says this war will go on while the top brass counts stacks from the safety of Jaburo. Slugger tells him to be careful. He may be a spy from Jaburo. Everyone for a moment thinks he's speaking the truth. Is this guy a spy? Amuro wasn't able to get a close look at their new Rickdomes. Bright does some flirting with Mirai. He thinks maybe I can have sex with her, but chooses not to as they are about to head into battle. Casilia praises Char for the previous battle. She wants to make the new type force the centerpiece of the space attack force. Casilia is usually strategic, but she is starting to lose it. Their next mission is in 24 hours. The Abawaku forces will be used as a decoy so the Fetties can be drawn out and attacked by Solomon. Casilia's forces are to lure enemies into the line of fire of the solar ray. Char wanted Chalya Bull to use the Elmith, but it is already tuned for Cusco Al. Casilia wants to bring on all the new type potential candidates. Chalya and Char check up on Cusco Al in the medbay. The Psychomu interface makes her nauseous, but more importantly, she has never been hit before on the battlefield, and her pride is broken. She realizes that this is what it's like to fight another new type. Bright doesn't know the details of the next mission. He is still being left in the dark. Kai thinks they're attacking Abawaku. All Bright says is that the operation is named Chimbalo. Remember, even in the anime, this operation was EFF's original push on the Zeon space front. Once the Fetties captured Solomon, they reassessed and they pivoted to Operation Star 1. They all wonder what their target is. Mirai looked at Amuro's files, and it seems like the Federation is using this crew as some sort of new type secret weapon. No one really knows exactly what a new type is at this point. Bright is just focused on surviving this war, but if they do, they will be treated as heroes. The crew is starting to bond more. Meanwhile, Char is flirting with a girl named Margaret Ring Blair. This is Casilia's assistant. Char feels a strong attachment to her, but doesn't want to create a savior complex like he did with Lalah soon. He asks how the scar on his face makes her feel. She says it is quite ugly, but it works for him. Remember, this is a self-inflicted wound to hide features that make him look like Zeon Daikun, and it gives him an excuse to wear the mask. Dude literally forgets about Lalah relatively quickly. Lieutenant Commander McVary's 203rd Squad finally came to support the Pegasus 2. They used the Tomahawk Cosmo Fighter. The Tomahawk Cosmo Fighter is a space fighter used by the Earth Federation forces. with verniers on the wings. There is no image of this fighter, but the closest thing would be the Toreadis, but with a fatter fuselage. These are old and have plexiglass canopies, but they are still very fast. Weapons for these fighters are unknown. McVary doesn't get along with the Pegasus 2 crew. Kai and the other crew members talk shit about the commander. The 127th Autonomous Corps currently consists of the Pegasus, the Cypress, and the Graydon. They are heading to a point called Area 365, which makes up one point of the Zeon Triangle, the other 2 points being Abawaku and Solomon. They won't have support when they head into this area. McVary thinks they are going to die during this mission. The Gundam, gun cannons, and gems head out for formation exercises to keep all the pilots on their toes. The Elmeth hasn't been spotted since the LH Moon incident. Amuro has a sudden urge to survive the war and claims it is because of Sayla. He thinks that the relationship with Sayla, and to a lesser extent Lalah, is something that transcends physical desires. G3 comes in for landing. Commander McVary tries to start shit with Amuro, but he plays it off. McVary thinks of the Gundam as a giant toy. Amuro heads to the briefing room. The Cosmo fighters come to the briefing room as well. Bright wants Amuro to brief the team as the Mobile Suit Commander. Amuro tells him that they would have been dead if this was real combat. He tells the team not to worry about the old guard, and looks McVary in the eyes. That's right, I'm talking about you, bitch. McVary tells him that he needs to be more concrete with his men. He is being too ideological. Amuro relates the Newtype sense to Ki, a situational pressure of the sense. Their judgment would have gotten them killed. Kai says, even me? Yeah, dude. Amuro believes that the Elmeth pilot is an even stronger Newtype than Lalah. We know this is Cusco Al. She is emitting waves that enemies hear in their head. The noise that people heard when Lalah approached them in the main series is given more to Cusco Al in the novels. Mid-briefing, it clicks in Amuro's head that the pilot is most likely Cusco Al, who he already encountered. Amuro continued discussing tactics for over 2 hours. Sayla is the last one in the room after the briefing with Amuro. She is still insecure about mentioning wanting to kill her brother. They ponder about new types. They can't read minds, but 2 new types can create a bridge that ultimately helps in better human understanding. Amuro finds Sayla attractive in the moment, but he is trying to keep his emotions in check before the upcoming battle. Must tame boner. Amuro asks if Sayla could feel it. Char and Cusco Al are definitely on their way. Sayla says she felt a sort of pressure, but chalked it up to stress. Amuro thinks that they have to put a stop to this operation. He says that they need to figure out who is dragging out this war. She thinks he is crazy. Sayla says it is easier being an only child because you don't have to worry about losing someone you love, referring to Char. Amuro, being an only child, finds this offensive, so he just gets up and walks out of the room. Cusco Al is informed that they are going up against the person who took down Lalah. She tells Chalia Bull that she has met the pilot before on Side 6. She thinks to herself, do I like a Fetty? At Solomon, they notice a blip. The 127th reach Area 365. Revel hopes that Casilia believes that this force is carrying new types, whether it is actually true or not. The 127th gets a red alert. The Cosmo fighters launch. 3 Musais approach with 6 Zakus. Bright readies the main cannons and fires. The skies light up. Pegasus 2 begins evading. Mirai dodges a bombardment. They fire anti-air missiles. Pegasus then fires the cannons again and are able to take down 1 Musai, but Zakus are responding. McVary's team is on their way. Amuro and the mobile suits intercept the Zakus. Sarkis takes on the Commander Zaku. It evades his attack and moves in on him. Amuro comes to save the day. He tells Sarkis to get it together. They move fast before another Zaku fires at them. They all get a kill, leaving 1 Zaku, who retreats. Kriya tries to shoot, but it gets away. McVary and his team focuses on the cruisers. They handled this with precision. McVary lost 4 fighters and blames it on Amuro. They argue once again over the validity of new types. Revel sends out a blue signal flare which alerts the commander to open an encrypted message. This finally told them of their next target, Abawaku. Bright and his team's mission is to destroy any forces coming from Solomon. They will be targeted by both Solomon and Abawaku. Char and his new type team is most likely coming for them. On the flagship, the Gandao, Dozel is infuriated that 3 ships just went down. He wants to beef up his armada and makes his way towards Abawaku. He wants to teach Revel a lesson. Casilia is hoping to meet with the Federation's new type forces. She also wants to ensure that Giren doesn't go through with the system project. Char wants to abandon Abawaku and flee. He tells Margaret to take care of herself, but gestures to come meet him outside. He tells her to focus on survival over anything else and to not do anything rash. His fleet heads out to search where the Gundam sunk the Musai cruiser. Chalia and Cusco butt heads, so she hangs out in the Elmith cockpit. She finally comes to terms with the fact that she has to kill Amuro even though she likes him. McVeary reminds everyone that over 5 billion have died during this war. Human population is going to be hard to keep up now. Bright says that many see this as a form of population control. This makes Amuro mad. But Bright says, yeah man, welcome to the real world. Sayla tries to calm Amuro down. She reminds him that if he wants to see new types thrive, they have to defeat the old ways of thinking. The 127th took down 2 Chevets, 4 Salamis cruisers, 3 Zakus, and a Jiko attack ship. They took them down in less than 15 minutes. Amuro and McVeary became friendly after this. Char believes that they may be true new types. He gives a speech to his men. 7 Rickdoms launch with Cusco Al and the Elmith. They are luring the Pegasus into the debris field. On Luna 2, Frau is working at a local military vehicle maintenance plant. She now has custody of Kika, Let's, and Cats. She gave up on her dreams of becoming a fashion designer, as she has mouths to feed now. Amuro thinks that they are walking into an ambush. Bright decides to plan accordingly. G3 launches. Cusco waits in her Elmith. She thought for a moment about throwing a wrench in Char and Chalia's plan. The Elmith, followed by the Rickdoms, pop out of the debris field and begin their attack. Cusco releases her bits. Their home ship, the Madagascar, readies its cannons. In the novel, Tomino mentions that the bits all have cameras, which the feed is sent directly into Cusco Al's brain via the Psychomo. That's kinda neat. One of the Elmith's bits are destroyed. It is the Gundam. She then feels hatred for men who start wars. The Madagascar fires off one of its nukes. Amuro aims his sights on the nuke. Kai and Hayato take care of some of the Elmith's bits and cover the Gundam's back. He takes down the nuke, causing everything to shudder. He then pushes forward, but the Elmith stops him. The pilot is faster than Lalah. Cusco Al projects new type waves around her. She closes in on the Gundam. Char comes in to help her. She still wonders if she was just fighting Amuro. Char tells Cusco to retreat. She gets out of there fast, but she feels something emanating from the Gundam. It bugs her so much that she re-engages with the mobile suit. Amuro tries to keep on top of the Elmith. He isn't able to get a shot on the mobile armor, but he is able to kick the Elmith. The Gundam uses its Vulcans to take out a bit with a nuclear missile. The Elmith and the Gundams clash over and over. Kai and Hayato make sure no one interrupts Amuro, but Char breaks through their defenses. He tries to get a lock on the Gundam, but struggles. This is just like the battle with Lalah. The 3 of them dance as they try to hit one another. The Gundam swiftly slices through Char's Rickdom's leg. Char has to disengage. As he retreats, he hears the new type ringing in his ears. He tries to reach Cusco, but gets nothing. Amuro and Cusco are connected. He tries to tell Cusco to retreat via new type thoughts. Amuro realizes this truly is Cusco Al. His response to this is, just so you know, I never wanted to sleep with you. Cusco says, yes you did, and you totally could have scored if you made a move. The Gundam takes out her final bit. Char tries to interfere as Cusco throws up in her pilot suit. Amuro strikes the Elmith and a silver light emits. He then sees Cusco's past. Her mother is being stabbed by a Fedi soldier. Her father is already dead, laying on the floor. Cusco Al and the Elmith are incinerated. McVeary moves in on the fleet. Char needs to retreat, but sees the Gundam. Char yells at Amuro for killing Cusco. Amuro says, don't make me kill you like your sister wanted. This greatly affects Char. Another light goes off. It is a nuclear bomb. Amuro fires at Char when his beam rifle explodes. He has no choice but to retreat. Sarkis was killed during this battle, along with 3 of McVeary's men. Also, the Graydon was destroyed. He tells Sayla that she told Char what she said about killing him earlier. She decides to slap him. Outside of the debris field, they get some rest. Soon, the final attack on Abawa coup will take place. We start this volume off hot. Giren says, so, we're gonna attack Abawa coup and get rid of Dozel and Casilia. Then I could rule Zeon post-war. Giren is working with Side 6 for peace post-war as well. This is told from the perspective of Giren's right-hand man, Chapman. He thinks to himself, man, we're all gonna die. He's gonna kill me eventually. I am so screwed. Chapman says that they need 3 days until the system can be ready, but there are already protests. They need to make it function ASAP. He is wondering if he should go against Giren or work closely with him. On the one hand, he will become second in command to Zeon without the other Zabi siblings. But Giren already threw one of his aides under the bus. It will eventually happen to him. The novel goes on about the creation of colonies. But one nugget we learn from this is that Side 3's climate is based off of Earth's northern hemisphere. People who come from tropical climates tend not to fit in well on Side 3. Giren in the novel is constantly thinking about expansion. In space isn't a problem like on Earth. His philosophy is the space version of Manifest Destiny, but in the name of Zeonism instead of God. He looks out at Mahal. An interesting note here is that Frederick Schott actually translates this to Mahar. But we all agree it's Mahal at this point, right? It has been evacuated for the System Project and was able to do so by claiming the people were blessed children of Zeon. Giren is still butthurt that Degwin called him a second-rate Hitler. He seems to see himself more on the level of Napoleon. Daddy must be jealous, he thinks. Chalya Bull is acting as a spy for Giren as he works for Casilia's Newtype Corps. Chalya is the only person that made Giren think that perhaps Newtypes are a real thing. He quotes Daikun's Newtype theory. While the zombies were gaining real power on Side 3, it was Zeon Daikun who became the celebrity. He was a direct challenge to the authority of the Federation. Being friends at the time, the zombies helped build up Daikun as they created their own republic. UC 0065 became known as the Black Years as Giren created a Black Ops army that took out over 200,000 people from an anti-Daikun faction. So he's also taking a page out of Stalin's playbook. The only other place that moderately hints at this Black Ops team is in a side story from Gundam Origin, where we see Giren and Sasuro carrying out shady things. His secret police is what allowed Giren to gain so much power to begin with. He mentions that Sasuro died during the struggle against the Daikun faction once they became enemies. In Gundam Origin, it is insinuated that Casilia killed him. Anyways, roll the clip where he blows up. He regrets his death. Ultimately, this is because Giren is a secret police at heart, and he believes Sasuro would have been better suited for the political part of the job. Giren just wants to get back to his roots of stealing people in the middle of the night. Ramba Ral of the secret police arrives at Giren's office. Time for some shots of brandy. He mentions that Chalya Bull's reports seem quite shallow and run-of-the-mill. There is a direct line in this book that says Ramba Ral's mustache trembles, and I laughed so hard. Tomino knows that mustache makes man. He tells him that he believes that Char is one of Zeon Daikun's son who was taken by Jimba Ral years ago. He explains how he fled under the name Eduardo Mas, and eventually infiltrated the Zeon Academy as Char Aznable, which is relatively close to Yas's vision in Gundam Origin. Anyways, here's a clip of the real Char Aznable blowing up. Giren also tells him that he should marry Clarette Harmine. How did that become Hammond Crowley over time? She says she will marry him once the war is over. Giren eventually agrees with Ral and thinks Chalya may now be a turncoat. He says, "Thanks, buddy. You gave me a reason to blow up my sister sooner." After dismissing Ral, he looks at the data that was given to him. It has video and images over the years of Char growing in the ranks of Zeon and getting close to Garma. They mentioned that they gave Garma the key in this novel, but in Origin, Char purposefully got himself in trouble so his rank would go down and Garma would get the top ranks. That's the problem with Gundam Origin. It makes Char out to always have a solution for everything like Batman. He then looks into Artesia. After her immigration to Site 7, there was no other intel on her. Char is ultimately the real threat here. Does Casilia know of his past, he wonders. Also, is he a true new type? The boys are mad that Amuro is hooking up with Sayla, but Amuro is kind of over her. He acknowledges that the two of them are just using each other for sex to fulfill the void. Char, being her sister, also is killing his boner. Get over it, dork. He regrets not killing Char when he had the chance. Char's ship, the Madagascar, was damaged during their battle with Amuro. When they returned to the ship after the battle, he took off his mask, which was rare, but he is no longer hiding himself from his men. This is told from the perspective of a man named Leroy who is starting to respect Char. He, Char, and Chalya reflect on whether or not the pilot of the Gundam is a new type. Dozel has gained a reputation for treating his men really well. General Revel is upsetting him as they are ignoring Solomon for a Baoku. His men recall when he was out in Azaku during the Battle of Loon. Of course, we saw this moment in Shin Matsunaga's story, as well as a few other places. They are currently undergoing tests for the Big Zam, which Tomino describes as two soup bowls glued together. Such illiterate prose, Tomino! He takes off in his ship with the new Big Zam. His pride is forcing him to engage with Revel directly, but instead, they run into the Pegasus 2 and the 127. Amuro, Hayato, Kai, and Kriya launch. Their team is highly efficient and take down 7 bogies swiftly. Amuro thinks of himself as a samurai and puts himself in a zen-like state. He has to find their flagship, the Gandao, and take it down. There was a throwaway line where Amuro says this isn't like a fantasy movie or a holoscope, and it makes me wonder if Universal Century has their own version of the holodeck. I want to see that. The 4 suits move in a diamond formation and continue their attack, looking for the flagship. The bridge informs Dozel of a unit pushing in fast towards their ship, and is moving like Char. This irritates him. He is ready to get into the Big Zam, which is being towed in the back of the Gandao. Dozel spots the white mobile suit. This must be the one he heard about. Remember, the Gundam in the novels are 100 meters tall like in G-Quux, but the Big Zam is even bigger. That must be one big boy. Amuro's squad approaches the Big Zam. They evade Dozel's attacks. Dozel personally takes control of one of the cannons. He isn't able to get a hit, Amuro's team is working efficiently together. The Big Zam begins flying up. Many of you are hipsters and say that there is no up in space, but Tomino explicitly says that the military uses situational directions depending on the context of the individual. They haven't seen this mobile armor before. The gun cannon fires around the Big Zam while Amuro moves in fast, takes aim, and fires. Dozel is amazed at how fast Amuro is. He tells his crew to flip the bitch, and the Big Zam turns upside down. Kriya has Amuro's back in the gym. He only joined the team after the incident at Texas Colony. Why are you telling me about Kriya's past? Don't take him away from me, Tomino! So anyways, Kriya and Amuro move in for a second attack. They're able to take out the Big Zam's leg, but the giant chicken hits and takes down Kriya. Damn it, Tomino. The Big Zam melts Amuro's shield. He goes for the top of the Big Zam. He fires and realizes an aura coming off the unit, as though it is a ghost. Then suddenly, bullets hit the fuselage of the Gundam. Amuro realizes a man is standing on top of the Big Zam firing a rifle. Remember, the Big Zam is 3 times bigger here, making it even harder to see a tiny human standing there. The aura is coming from this man. Amuro fires and vaporizes Dozel and the Big Zam. In his final moments, he thinks of his wife, Narcy, and his son, Minerva. The 127th continues for a Bao coup, but if they take out any ships from the Vanguard, they may have to alter course and change plans. Bao Cou's base commander, Randolph Weigelman, is on the level of Casilia and Dozel, and also one that Giren wants killed off for his post-war reign. Revel wants to minimize forces by ending this swiftly. Bao Cou's first wave is satellite missiles, which are cheap but efficient. After the missiles, the Federation begins to fan out and surround the asteroid base. Revel wants to find a weak point and push through. However, someone botched his orders and many retreat on accident. Whoops. Meanwhile, Bright on the Pegasus says, why is everyone retreating and leaving us? In order to save face, the retreating ships went to handle the remaining Solomon forces. This leaves Bright in the dark. The 203rd tries to rescue a crew nearby. They hail Bright. He says that they must support the Photofac fleet. Bright ordered the crew to return to ship. Meat-Eye tells him not to relax just yet. Bright says, damn it, can I please have a moment? She reminds him that Kriya just died. Somehow, Bright will find this attractive. Their banter isn't as cute in the novel. Amuro's team is going back out soon. They use their time to change out their underwear. This is the 3rd time Tomino mentions switching out underwear. Ball sweat sounds like a huge problem. Any fighter pilots watching these videos? Is ball sweat a problem? They couldn't mourn Kriya's death. The others tease Amuro for not having an amulet from Salem Ass. But he reminds them they aren't really dating, and it isn't like that. But this upsets Kai, so he says, screw it, I'll go ask Sayla for you. Now you must be wondering, what is an amulet? You must be thinking, oh, it sounds like when a boy gives a girl a Letterman's jacket or something like that. Something wholesome, you know? Wrong! An amulet is when a girl gives a guy a lock of her pubic hair. Tomino. I know this is a Victorian era thing, but Tomino, come on, man. First of all, I'm not about clean shaven, but a lock of pubes might be too much pubes. Might be time to shave. The 70s were wild, man. Kai tells Sayla to come to the briefing room. He shows off a notebook with his amulet, but he won't tell them who gave it to him. You would think that Bright would call these kids an idiot, but Bright actually calls Amuro an idiot. He says, yeah, go get that amulet, bro. I guess they take it seriously. Amuro asks Sayla. She says, you serious right now? She just leaves, so Amuro lies to Kai and says Sayla promised not to show him. This gives him an out, but Amuro wished he actually did get an amulet. Gross. After the awkwardness with Sayla, Amuro gets back into G3 and launches again. Casilia set up shop in a command station at Bao Coup. They're waiting for Garcia from the Flanagan Agency. Many of Revel's men have fled into the Corregidor Shoal Zone. They think they have the upper hand. In an offhand comment, Garcia tells Giren that Dozel was annihilated. The Federation's Newtype forces also took out a chunk of Solomon's fleet. Char looks stunned at Chalya. They're still confused as why they went to the Shoal Zone, though, not knowing that this was just an accident. Usually when met with defeat, they're able to withdraw and save at least a quarter of their forces. But the Newtype forces are totally wiping them out completely. Garcia gives Char a backhanded compliment about surviving against the Gundam. He has ordered more mobile suits and expects Amuro to make his way towards their location. Leroy, Char, and Chalya wonder if there's a way to talk to this Amuro Ray somehow. That's kinda hard to do while they're on the battlefield. They wonder if Lalah is the one who activated Amuro's Newtype abilities. Chalya thinks that Char might be too emotionally invested and may be biased towards him. He and Amuro had a Newtype moment where Amuro brought up Sayla wanting to kill him. He keeps this moment to himself though and doesn't tell anyone. They might have to use Artesia. At a Lagrange point is Matilda on a ship called the L3. Not confusing at all. Ironically, they are at L2. In the novel, Woody wasn't taking the hint and proposing to Matilda, so she sorta used Amuro to make Woody jealous. He eventually got the message and proposed. They're providing supplies to the Pegasus. She wants to relay a message to Amuro about her wedding with Woody. Everything is so dour that Sayla says, "Wedding? Not a lot of celebrations happening around here. Just people trying to get pubes in between missions." Many of the pilots gather in a briefing room. They all seem to feel something while fighting Dozel's fleet, but no one saw the aura that Amuro saw. Slugger is the one in the group that is not buying into this new type hippie nonsense. Bright tells everyone to shut up. This is supposed to be a tactical meeting, damn it. Bright speculates that they might be able to take on Giren themselves. He thinks that Zeon is baiting Revel towards Bawaku. Amuro deduces that the aura that he saw with Dozel is a malevolent presence, which means that Giren must be the source of that presence. It seems like a logical stretch, but it gets them to focus on one target. He wonders what will happen if they succeed and win the war. New types will most likely look like a supernatural phenomenon, and they will be ostracized. It won't turn out good for them. Sayla says that the new types we see manifesting aren't the new types that Zeon Daikun predicted, because the new type he predicted would occur throughout all of humanity. After the briefing, Sayla visits Amuro in his quarters. She brings up the message left by Matilda. He doesn't really want to think about her wedding until after this war is over. For Sayla, she thinks this is an affirmation of life, even in a moment of chaos. She takes a shower. In the novel, they explain that showers on ships are pressurized mist, but it waterboards you. So you have to keep your head in this container so you don't drown. How many embarrassing shower deaths have there been in space? She then decides to talk about her brother to Amuro. She wonders if Char had anything to do with Garma's death. She then admits to Amuro that she met Char in Texas Colony during the battle. He wanted Sayla to not get involved in the war. Amuro thinks to himself, maybe I could use Sayla to emotionally manipulate Char. Casilia meets with Claret, who delivers a message from Prime Minister Darchia Bakarov. He informs Casilia that Giren plans on using a secret weapon to destroy a Bawaku. Remember, Claret is the Hammond Crowley character in this novel. Claret also mentions that they know the location of Artesia and Cassival Daikun. Casilia finally puts it all together and realizes that Char is Cassival. However, she isn't mad. In fact, she feels a motherly love towards Char. She is glad that she took him in under her wing. She reflects on the past when they hung out as children. Casilia said that their blonde features made the Daikuns look like they stepped out of a fairy tale. Casilia happens to say this exact line in G-Quux, and it is a direct reference to this moment in the novel. In the novel, this affirms her belief that one day she can become a mother. Unlike her attitude in G-Quux where she wants to completely delete the Zeon bloodline, it's also different from Gundam Origin where Casilia did a bad touch on Char. She says, alright, let's confront this now. Send in Char. Unlike the Federation, who will absolutely kill new types if given the opportunity. Casilia thinks that after the war, she will let the people decide the fate of new types. Which means Char may be a hero in this war. He may also be a scapegoat. Char comes in and asks for 2 Elmeths, half jokingly. Casilia tells him, calm down there, cowboy. But then she offers him a brow bro, which has been in development. Casilia then calls him Cassival. Oh, that's what this meeting is all about. He wasn't able to anticipate this and thinks maybe I'm not a new type if I couldn't see this coming. He takes off his mask, revealing his scar. He expected punishment, but Casilia laughs at him. He is still necessary to her, and a Bawaku is all that matters now. They could talk after the war. She plans on leaving a Bawaku to head towards Side 3. She wants him to guard her. He realizes Giren is trying to target her. Her plan is to bail when Revel begins his attack. They should be too preoccupied to care about her. She says to Char, I'd rather you kill me than Giren. Ooh, foreshadowing! After the meeting, Char goes to Casilia's assistant, Margaret Ring Blair, and says, hey, you want to make a baby? So Rambaral told Giren of Char's identity, and Claret told Casilia. It is insinuated that Claret was used by Giren and then passed off to Rambaral. They are working towards their own plan. However, Ral is worried about Claret as she is on board a Bawaku currently. The drogue visits the Pegasus and the Corregidor Shoal Zone. General Revel is astonished by their capabilities. He thinks the crew are new types, but tells him they are just regular people. The Gundam pilot may be a new type though. Amuro tells Revel about his interaction with Lalah, Char, and Cusco Al. Kai says don't forget about Dozel. Amuro then mentions that they believe they are able to see and feel pain on the battlefield, referring to Dozel's aura. Sayla then explained her experience with helping out the crew on Texas. Revel says, so, we did a background check on you. Guess what we found out? Her secret is over. Revel tells the crew that she is Artesia Som Daikun. Everyone is shocked by this. Sayla says that if Revel truly believes in new types, then he should stop using them to fight this war. But Amuro takes the pragmatic approach. It doesn't matter how well 2 people understand one another. The fact is, society is shaped by rules, and he is a part of a system that will always utilize everything in the name of survival. This was touched on in Gundam Pulitzer, and Lalah's Newtype Ghost brought this concept up once. It doesn't matter if Newtypes have the ability to bridge communication, or even read minds. The system at hand will always find a way to use Newtypes to their needs. It's an inevitability. The 127th is to continue moving forward as the vanguard towards Baoku. They cleared the path from the Corregidor Shoal Zone. The Pegasus zigzagged instead of flying in a straight line. Here we see the skills of Mirai Yashima as she mans the helm with ease. We also get a better understanding of how much the atmosphere played into humans' perception when moving fast. In space, a tiny speck can become a giant asteroid in mere seconds if you aren't paying attention. They all put on their normal suits. In the novel, Mirai's father is a politician. Yashima Industries doesn't seem to exist here, but she still comes from a powerful family. She also apparently had a brother and sister who died in space before the war. She gets a little too close to some debris. Bright tells her to turn off her LCS and focus. She's not destroying a Death Star, calm down. Amuro and the boys are on standby in their mobile suits. Streaks of light flash through the sky. Manaski particle disruption has turned attacks into lobbing missiles and hoping for the best. The mobile suits pick off any missiles heading towards the Pegasus 2. Hayato and Kai pump each other up. Amuro doesn't feel the aura like when he fought Dozel's forces. More satellite missiles explode nearby. Suddenly, Gattles and Jico attack ships approach. The Jico class is an assault spacecraft and similar to the Federation Public class. The 7-tube missile launcher sits at the bow of the ship right below the bridge. The spheres in the back are fuel tanks. Other weapons include machine guns mounted at the neck of the ship, 2 on each side. Following them are Gao bombers. Revel's plan is to concentrate fire in one area and create a hole in their defenses. Meanwhile, we learn that Giren has a wife in the novel, but he thinks that she is beneath him. The only person that he truly trusts is Cecilia. The two flirt with one another. Ew, it's like watching Palpatine try to flirt. Gross. Giren is informed that the Fetties have begun their attack again. Even Giren didn't expect Dozel to fall so fast. To be clear, he expected Dozel to die, but he was hoping Dozel would hold off the fleet for at least a day or two. They also mention a Commander Chapman Jerome. Fun fact, this is the guy who died with Giren and Cecilia in G-Quux. She finally speaks up and says that the death of Randolph and Casilia would be too big of a loss for Zeon. He says don't worry about it and begins caressing her neck. Giren's a psychosexual freak, but she's into it, so she's a freak too. Giren explains the Antarctic Treaty and how half of humanity has died during the first week of war. But then he says, hey man, there are still more humans now than during the Dark Ages. You know what? I say not enough people have died during this war. Cecilia says you are the coolest and are always right. She's in too deep, nothing she could do now. She's going down with the ship. Char shows Chalia Bull the Brabro. Usually this requires 4 people to pilot it, but with the Elmet Psychomu, a Newtype can control it on its own. Char knows that Chalia is on his side even though he was sent by Giren to spy. They're still trying to contact Amuro. Leroy is super enthusiastic to be a part of the team. They are risking everything, and must not be captured by Giren during all of this. But they also can't die while trying to convince the Gundam to join their Newtype cause. They all get into their mobile suits. This unit has 1 Browbro, 4 Rickdoms, and 5 Zakus. This is Char's 300th autonomous Newtype unit. They launch and head into battle. Char is piloting one of the Rickdoms. On the Swallmill is Casilia, along with her assistant and Clarette Harmine. They're in S-Field awaiting reinforcements. She's pretending that she's going headfirst in the battle, but she is just trying to get the hell out of there. She knows that Giren is going to use the colony laser to assassinate her. Amuro thinks that Dozel's aura was a Newtype consciousness trying to escape the physical realm. Cusco, Al, and Lalah showed him that empathy is possible with Newtypes, but they seem to only be used as weapons of war. Jico attack ships move in. Amuro is in the middle of a battle. Focus. He takes out some Jicos and a Musai. Zakus move in, but Hayato and Kai handle them with ease. The Swallmill communications officer says that the colony laser will fire in 30 seconds. She is convinced the first shot won't be directed at her. Once it reaches 35%, they fire the cannon. Giren is amazed at what 35% produces. Amuro detects the laser. It is a massacre. Amuro thinks it took out about 30 cruisers. He has seen nothing like this. Hayato comes on the comms, followed by Kai. They slowly come to the realization of the blast. Amuro turns on his FOF signal for a quick second and turns it off. This is enough to get Kai and Hayato's attention. Kai tries to not think about the death and focus on the battle. Gattle bombers attack them. Revel and the higher-ups are in awe of the colony laser. They get word that the 127th is the first to make it to Abaoku's front lines. He plans on staying on the front lines as long as possible. Things are looking bleak, but Revel is putting his faith in the Pegasus 2 and the 127th. Chalia Bull feels despair on the battlefield after witnessing the colony laser. Char senses that Chalia is on a whole different level than he is, so he follows his lead. Char in the novel is more sensible. Mirai and others sense dread along with the colony laser. Many just look on while Mirai tries to steer the ship clear. The ship takes a hit from the crashed Gattle bomber. Bright starts barking orders to stop Chaos from descending on the bridge. They think that Admiral Carroll was hit by the blast and open up comms to contact someone. Mirai wonders if Sayla can sense Char. All she can sense is that someone is going to die, and she isn't referring to the Carroll fleet. Frabo feels a chill surge down her body. She is on Luna 2 and wonders if she is getting sick. She suddenly starts grasping for air and losing energy. She calls out for Cats and contacts him before passing out. Amuro and his team are getting close. He then hears something calling him. Behind the Gundam is a mobile armor. It is the Brow Bro. Before engaging, he hears a voice. This isn't coming over the comms. The Minovsky particles are jumbling up signals this deep on the battlefield. He is talking via psycho waves. Chalia attempts to get Amuro to come to their side. He says that he and Char are going to try to overthrow the Zabi family. He tells the 127th and the Pegasus too to follow them. The recent colony laser has put Amuro's Newtype senses in a fight or flight mode. This is a moment where logical words may have been better than Newtype telepathy. Tomino is trying to show the importance of emotional context, and he's kind of failing. Being post-colony laser, Chalia's offer comes off as a mental assault to Amuro and not an olive tree. Too many good men just died by that blast. Amuro uses the hyper bazooka on the Brow Bro. Chalia dodges the attack. He continues asking Amuro, but he notices the Brow Bro bits surrounding the Gundam. The bits in the anime are wired, but here they make it seem like it's wireless. But unlike the Elmeth, Amuro can't sense the Psychomu system, even though there is one. Hayato comes in and attacks the bits. The bit fires at the same time as Hayato and makes a DBZ blast. This knocks Hayato's gun cannon back. Amuro yells out that there's a new type on the battlefield. Sligger and Sayla are looking out for the red comet. Sligger thinks, if we live through this, I'm gonna steal Sayla from Amuro. Mirai suddenly yells the red comet. Rick Dom's approach, but it happens to be Leroy. He is amazed by the Pegasus. Leroy is meant to buy time. He fires a bazooka, but it does nothing. On the Swalmel, this is their chance to make their escape before the next colony laser blast. The Federation lost a third of their forces in the colony laser attack, but they are pushing forward even harder. Casilia thought the Federation was going to kamikaze. One of Chalia's bits were destroyed. He thinks to himself, man, screw this guy. I'm gonna kill him. Amuro snaps out of it and begins fighting again. The gun cannons assist by distracting the bits. Amuro fires on the Brow Bro's cockpit and vaporizes the unit and Chalia. After the fight, Amuro's thoughts catch up to his emotions. He thinks, oh, he was trying to help me. Whoops. Char is mad at Chalia's death. The gun cannons swarm Char. He dodges one, whips out his bazooka, and fires, killing Hayato. Kai tells Amuro about Hayato, but he says that Char is trying to work with him. He contacts the Pegasus and tells them to get back from the next colony laser attack and to meet up with Char afterwards. While sending this laser comm, Amuro is wide open. Leroy misinterprets this and goes full Leroy Jenkins and fires on the Gundam. Leroy kills Amuro. Leroy! Char is mad at his subordinate. For a brief moment, he senses Amuro. He then sees Lalah, who thanks him. Ghost Amuro says, I totally banged your sister. Char then sees Cusco Al, who calls him cute. Amuro stored psychic potential inside of him, and it exploded upon his death. Amuro tells Char to build a better world and to get rid of Giren Zabi. He appears to Leroy and tells him not to be too rash. Amuro talks to Kai and tells him to work with Char and take down Giren. He blames Amuro's death on not carrying an amulet, which, to be clear, is just pubic hair. He then visits Sligger, who initially thought it was one of his men. Then Mirai and Sayla hear Amuro. The sheer intensity causes Sayla to piss herself. Is that necessary, Tomino? Mirai reminds her that Sayla made it this far on her own and doesn't need her brother anymore. Amuro wishes he didn't have to die alone, but Sayla wasn't the last one that he thought of. Amuro talks to Frau, who has a fever. He says that he never forgot her. She hugs Ghost Amuro, which is the first time they hugged, which is kind of sad. He tells her that he is dead. Frau begins to cry. In his final moments, he tries to explain the feeling of being a new type. Bright gets the ship out of there before the colony laser goes off. Sayla on the comms tells Char that they are following their lead. She suggests that the Pegasus follow the Swalmel. Revel receives a message from the Pegasus that just says leave the area. They need to take cover behind a Baoku, thinking that they aren't going to fire on their own forces. Revel laughs and says, nah, he will totally kill his own people. Everyone is silent as they follow the Swalmel. Leroy cries, realizing what he has done. Rambo Rao gets word that another colony laser blast will happen. He worries about Claret. Giren's scientists start arguing. There is an issue with the microcircuits on the colony laser. Giren is on the line for the commander. He is starting to lose his nerves after witnessing a little bit of genocide. The fact that the Federation is still plowing forward makes Giren think that Revel is still alive. 5 minutes until they fire the colony laser again. They note that the Federation is hiding behind a Bawaku. Giren tells Ramba Rao to prep for Mahal. The laser fires once again. Meanwhile, Giren changes the trajectory of the colony laser, and it doesn't hit a Bawaku. Giren demands that Giren tell him what's going on. Chapman says, "Oh no, what happened?" Giren orders Rao to interrogate Giren's people and execute them if necessary. Revel thinks that they should abandon their position at a Bawaku and to follow the Pegasus. They get a message out to other ships. They put a Bawaku between them and the sun. Their ships turn around mid-battle. They notice Zeon sending out a retreat on the comms. Then the colony laser fires, taking out a Bawaku and Revel's fleet. Giren is doing all this to kill Casilia, but she isn't on a Bawaku. She has been on the Swallmill this whole time. They're making their way towards Side 3. Casilia's men tell her that the S sector was targeted. They would have been killed if they stayed at a Bawaku. Casilia announces to her men that she plans on taking on her brother, Giren Zabi. Her men decide to stay by her side, especially since Char is with her. They learn that the Pegasus is also joining in on their efforts. At this point, the war is over, and the Federation's fleet is completely wiped out. The Pegasus and whatever remaining ships are orphans in space, essentially. They wonder how the Pegasus knows of their plan. Someone is communicating with Char. She doesn't directly jump to the fact that he is plotting something behind her back, mainly because the moment the Gundam was destroyed, Amuro also reached out to Casilia and said the words, "Destroy Giren." She is starting to put faith in new types. They make their way towards Zoom City. Bright meets with Char. He says without Amuro Ray, they would have probably never met. Kai and Slugger says they promise not to shoot him in the back during this mission, but they make no promises after all this is over. Midai asks why he wears the mask. He takes it off. They now feel that they could be allies after seeing his face. Rao makes it to Mahal to arrest Giren. He thinks that he is safe under Giren's protection, but Rao is here under Giren's orders. He tries to put blame on some of his men, but they turn on their commander. Rao ends this by putting a hole through Giren's head. He and the SS are now in control of the colony laser. Casilia makes it to Zoom City and begin their coup. She joins Char and his Rikdom. She is seeing this through personally. Char, Kai, and Leroy launch and begin their attack on Zoom City. They seize control of the colony control center. Kai mentions that Side 3 has the biggest colonies, as this one is 30 kilometers wide and 150 kilometers long. That's about 10 times the size of the colonies in the anime. Giren touches Cecilia's boobs when she is informed that Casilia has taken control of the colony. Giren now angrily grabs her boobs. It was actually just a premonition that Cecilia had, but it turned out to be true. Kai is able to sense Giren as though his new type senses are now finely tuned. They surround Giren's limo as he tries to make his escape. Casilia knows that Giren tried to kill him because of Ramba Rao and Claret. She shoots and kills her brother. She is standing in the hand of Char's Rikdom. In that moment, Char just decides to flick his wrist, causing Casilia to splat onto the asphalt. Hilarious. She died like Chronicle Asher. Kai hates Char for what he just did. Giren Zabi was dethroned. The principality returned to being a republic with Prime Minister Darchia at the helm. However, Zeon won this war. Midai and Bright decide to stay with Zeon and rebuild. Kai Shiden went back to the Federation forces. Frau Bo and the 3 war orphans lived a happy life on Luna 2, now under Zeon occupation. Sayla decided to live on Earth. Her brother no longer exists to her. She swims in the Mediterranean with Amuro watching over her. And that will conclude Mobile Suit Gundam Confrontation and the original run of Tomino's vision for Gundam. This was wild. The hypersexual nature of Gundam all started here. I am also glad that we covered this after G-Quux to see how much the show pulled from this novel. Everything post-Amuro's death felt rushed, and Tomino could have fleshed out the coup d'etat a little more. What did you think of that ending? It is weird to see Zeon win but return to democracy, now that the Zabis are no more. We have now covered the manga, anime, and novels. Perhaps we will do a video comparing all 3 in the future. But that will do it for now, new types. Remember, Tomino was 2 pages from ending his novel and he said, "I gotta have Giren touch Cecilia's titties one last time." Man of culture. Peace.